The city cited an airline cargo handling service at O'Hare for animal cruelty and neglect. A tipster told Chicago police numerous French bulldogs had been left in a warehouse without care. 17 dogs were saved, but one died before help arrived. It appears the dogs arrived on a flight on Friday, but the CDC wouldn't release them to the owners due to paperwork issues.
Good morning. I'm Steve Inskeep. Happy hour is different in COVID times. You're more likely to have a beer at home with your dog than out with your friends. Since alcohol is not recommended for dogs, you can't really share the fun until now. Bush has a new dog brew to let your best friend in on the fun. It's made from bone broth and other natural flavors. People can try it, although it may take a few of the real thing before you think it tastes any good. It's Morning Edition.
Context of White Supremacy. They got beer for the hounds. They got gelato for the hounds. I've talked about that for years here in Seattle. I mean, yeah. We got all kinds of spectacular produce, the snow leopard melons and Tuscan cantaloupes and purple broccoli and, striped eggplant, all kinds of wacky produce. Man. Dog gelato. I'm gonna have to look next time to see if they got the beer for the dogs too. I hadn't, checked as hard for that, but they got the dog gelato. They've had that for a long time now. You heard that first report in Chicago. You'll get all kinds of charges. You black identity extremist, all kinds of things. They find out you left some canines unattended and they didn't get food and walked properly. Man. This is our final study session on Romain Gary's White Dog. We are all done. I am a little bit surprised myself that we powered through the text so quickly, but we are wrapping it up today, starting off on chapter 24. We will pay attention and see how everything wraps up. Mr. Keys will come back. We'll see if the dog has been trained to satisfaction. Hopefully it has been a constructive read. As I said, for me, begrudgingly in my top 10. I don't even think the book is well written, but wow, does it reveal tons about what it means to be white. Even the workings of the system of white supremacy. Incredible. We will go ahead and get started again. Chapter 24, Romain Gary, White Dog, audio segment 1. Chapter 24. I hear there are still virgin atolls left in the tropical paradise east of Tahiti, but instead of catching the first plane, I settle for a dinner chaise lip with Kaba, a student from Guinea, who is one of those unlikely creations of our time, a mixture of African dream and Marxist dialectics, with Chairman Mao taking over from the witch doctors and no less capable than the old magic of ordering rain to fall or raising the dead from the grave. Things are pretty rough around Saint-Germain-des-Prés, with students and riot troops swapping paving stones with tear gas grenades. At Lips, Roger Case has the iron shutters closed, and to get out, we have to go through the back door. There is a thick and tense barrage of C.O.W.S. knights in armor right in front of the brasserie. One of them, red nose, red neck, red wine, full belly, full balls, full ass, looking like a gargantuan king fallen on bad democratic times, with the shield of St. Louis in his hand, orders me back. Nobody goes through. I look around. The young intellectual elite is by the church to our right. The Rue de Bac, where I want to go, is to the left, and all is peaceful there. Listen, I'm going to the left. Fatal word. Pavlov's reflex. The Rabelaisian face twists with hatred. He narrows his eyes. When our mother stupidity narrows her eyes, it is quite something. They literally sparkle with imbecility, and La Connerie's small, rosy little lips, which bring irresistibly to mind all kinds of other sphincters, twist in a well-informed smile. It's the smile of a man you can't fool, a typical fool's smile. The word connerie has no equivalent in English. It's a mixture of cunt minus delight plus gross unredeemable idiocy, and you have to be French to have a birthright claim to it. The overall impression is that of His Majesty the Carnival King in my beloved city of Nice, where I grew up. Le vent de l'esprit. Here again, you have to be French to have a natural right to this expression, the wind of the spirit, which is all too often more wind than spirit. Le vent de l'esprit blows from the depths of French democracy, and I feel on my face whiffs of garlic and lousy wine, plus that extra something you can expect from sphincters. Oh yeah? Going to the left, huh? Here, take this, you bearded asshole. I get a first-class blow from his matraque on the back of my neck. The effect is extraordinary. After a momentary blackout filled with Christmas candles and, for some reason known only to my subconscious, a brief but splendid hard-on, I experience a wonderful impression of my rebellious youth welcoming me back with open arms, a prodigy of rejuvenation of the kind that only police can achieve. La Connerie then goes through my pockets and comes out with something that, judging from the expression on his ass, could well be an infernal machine that is my diplomatic passport with my rank of Consul General de France, assistant to the Minister of Information, Compagnon de la Libération, Croix de Guerre. These last details marked on my privileged treatment high official's pass. I can almost hear La Connerie think, and the thought is, oh shit, this is the end of my career. I get up on all fours, helped by Kaba, then onto my feet. La Connerie is brushing up my clothes. With that instant Groucho Marx buffoonery that has always saved me from jail for murder, I begin to take off my shoe to give it to him to lick, but suddenly think better of it. La Connerie only did his duty. He was defending the establishment of which I am such a distinguished member. He was defending me. And I was asking for trouble. I have a beard. I am wearing blue jeans, high boots, and a red sweater, no tie, and to crown that typical enemy of law and order get-up, my companion is a nigger. La Connerie got his social classes mixed up, understandable error. But the important thing is, I am defended. I am not paying taxes for nothing. A wonderful sense of security. My bourgeois self almost wets its pants out of sheer excess of gratitude. Tears come to my eyes, though the smoke from the grenades does help a bit. I grab my papers from my shaking and saluting guardian and go in search of his commanding officer. I show him the documents and introduce myself. Commander Gary de Cassou, Lieutenant, allow me to congratulate you. He glances at my credentials, salutes smartly. I dressed up as one of those radical bums to test your troops. They are remarkable. Your man gave it to me without hesitation. One look at my clothes and the matraque came down on my head. Never saw a better trained animal. I myself have a dog, specially trained to go after scum. I know what it takes to achieve this kind of efficiency. Bravo! I shake his hand warmly. Vive la France! He beams with patriotic zeal. I go back to La Connerie and pat him on the shoulder. Carry on. Mon vieux. Ciao, okay? He is still a bit worried, squints toward the lieutenant. Too many beans, perhaps? They make you fart. Everything is fine, mon commandant. You'll get an extra ration of booze tomorrow. You fellows can do with a bit of stimulation. I'll see to that. I depart, feeling I've done my best. Kaba trots along at my side, very worried. During my encounter with La Connerie, he had made himself invisible, although actually never moving an inch from me. A real piece of black magic. This kid is so used to riots that he has perfected a wizard's technique of turning into thin air on the spot and then materializing again. That's what Mao-Leninism can do for you. Are you all right? Couldn't matter less. The important thing is to know that we are well protected. I make for home, disregard the elevator, and gallop upstairs for the first time in years. My 20s are back with me. Youth is singing in my blood. A terrific hormonal upsurge. And now comes that bit about Monsieur Romain Gary's incredible behavior, strange to say the least, as the Nouvel Observateur was to comment, while other leftist papers also raised their eyebrows. Here is my answer. Though a bit belatedly, as the book is already out in Paris, the French could do with a little less esprit and a bit more of a sense of humor. Anyway, I put on my best striped pants, my homme de monde suit, all my medals, plant a Homburg on my head, custom made at Gallows. The final touch, an elegantly rolled umbrella. It's essential. A must. I take a look at myself in the mirror. Jesus. I am ready. Now, Kaba, you be a good nigger and go home. You speaky, pigeon Frenchy. You go fucky fast, back your village. Me, white boss, go alone. Me meet big white man all by self. You talky fucky? Kaba shakes his head disapprovingly. What's matty? You no likey nihilists? He shrugs, shakes his head once more sadly, and leaves. Those Marxist-Leninist son of a bitches can't stand real terrorists. Makes them feel they might get it in the ass themselves someday. I walk over to Sevres, Babylon, looking like the greatest thing that has happened to the bourgeois since the 1789 revolution. I walk over to the Sevres, Babylon, looking like the greatest thing that has happened to the bourgeois since the 1789 revolution. In front of the Lutetia, there is quite a promising confrontation. On one side, students and workers, on the other, the riot police. The pavés are flying. The tear gas grenades go bang and expire, hissing. Smoke. Yells. Broken glass. Fires. 3 times, very politely, after saluting my striped pants and my umbrella, the C.R.S. warned me, "It's dangerous here for you, sir. Des gauchistes. Anarchists. They'll be after you with bricks." Out of my way, officer. I am an ancien combattant, a veteran. Libya, Ethiopia, the Normandy beaches. I can take care of myself. I show them my special privilege ministerial pass. One of those goddamn leftists catches sight of me. My Homburg and my umbrella have on him the instant effect of red on a bull. He goes for me with an iron bar. I step back heroically behind the line of the C.O.W.S. He stops. This is going to be an old-fashioned shouting contest as in the epic days of Homer. The bastard is one of those typical French proletarian types, a Galois in his mug. Banana, he goes. A terrible insult, this, real hitting below the belt. Though a banana has the right shape, it's a notoriously soft fruit. Cuckoo, I go, just as a warmer-up. Go home and get your balls back from your wife, he yells. Tens, that's rather American of him. You have a pair of balls back of your ass, all right, I yell, but they're never the same pair. A direct hit, that one. Fascist, he goes, which is cliché, weak, falling back on bare minimum. A Frenchman should be able to do better than that. Let's stimulate him a bit. You kike, I go. Funny thing, call a good French communist worker a Jew and you'll hear from him. That's about the worst thing you can say about his mother. They're staunchly non-anti-Semitic, of course, but that doesn't mean you can go around insulting them. I didn't expect to get such quick results. A tidal wave of hollering, indignant pure Aryan proletariat starts rolling toward me. I carry out a rapid strategic retreat, leaving 3 lines of riot police between me and those true good Frenchmen. Jews! I yell once more from my bourgeois position, waving my umbrella, more heroic than ever. That does it. The red scum rolls forward. The pigs stand their ground. There is a beautiful melee, a delight to watch. I don't want to brag, but I sincerely feel I have accomplished something. I have poured oil on the sacred fire. I light a Havana and make another effort a little further down in the Rue de Sèvres. There's a nice little gathering there, but it lacks gusto. It's a bit tame and waning. The kids just stand there, bricks in hand. The point is, they have been fighting for almost a month, and they haven't been watching TV or listening to the radio during all that time, so the world has receded a bit into the distance. They're losing touch with it, and the urge to smash and burn everything in sight has begun to subside. They need a helping hand, a bit of goading to get them back into action again. As my head still feels twice its size and full of broken rocks, I feel I am still in debt to the police. So I step forward in my 100% conservative get-up, medals and all. I wave my umbrella at them and I yell, "Down with the Jews and Metek! Down with foreigners! La France à Francais! France for the French!" That does it. The sacred fire flares up again, bricks fly, the police charge, the students hold their ground. There are at least 3 C.O.W.S put out of action, while the kids retreat without casualties. I have done some good work there. Groucho would be proud of me. And that's when, it seems, the left-wing press caught me red-handed, and that's how I became a reactionary for keeps. Let us not forget, wrote Guy Demore in Le Nouvel Observateur, that M. Romain Gary believes only in force. He is a Gaullist, all right. M. God D'Amour, let me salute you in one of those left-wingers who keep breaking the traditional French right-wing monopoly on la connerie and are giving a stronger and stronger left-wing slant to it. France for the French, Jews to Israel. When I think that I lost my holy Russian fatherland because of kikes like me, I am unable to resist it. Kikes, go home! There is not one Jew among those pure-blooded French communists, so you can imagine the indignation and rage with which they go after me. Thank God the cops recognize their own kind. They surge forward, and I find myself back where I belong, behind them. It's a good fight, a real pleasure to watch. I feel I have accomplished something for my fatherland. I mean, I have avenged the burning of Moscow by Napoleon and all our Cossack dead. That son of a bitch, Kerensky, he had 100 opportunities to liquidate the commies, and now they have even taken over the Odeon Theater here in my beloved France. I am a born nationalist, no doubt about it. I walk gloomily toward the Bull Mitch. The life of a Russian refugee is a cruel one. It makes you minister plenipotentiary of France, a decorated patriot, a spokesman for the French delegation to the UN, and then they give you the Goncourt Prize for Literature. Heartbreaking. I take out my Hermes handkerchief and wipe away my tears. Grenades fill the streets with smoke. I walk up the Rue des Écoles toward the Sorbonne. The students take one look at my bourgeois appearance and move quickly away, holding their noses. My most memorable experience of the May Revolution awaits me on the Sorbonne campus, where I go in a spirit of nihilistic terrorism I have inherited from my spiritual fathers, W.C. Fields, and the Marx Brothers, a desecrating hygiene, a puncturing of all pompous self-importance, of all the deadly grips of conformity and over-seriousness. It is a form of terrorist attack on everything in sight, from which only true values emerge unscathed. Satire, irony, parody, and humor are the tests of true value, but go tell that to the French intellectuals. Like all messed up, insecure people, they can't take the challenge of parody and are dying of seriousness. You have to be sure of yourself and know what you are really about to be able to laugh at yourself. That is how Jewish humor was born. The students let me down. I am received icily but politely. They recognize in me a notorious Gaullist and an enemy of liberty, and we get involved in a political debate. Paris in May 1968 was the greatest debating assembly the world has seen since the Athens democracy. Strangers stopped each other in the streets and compared their respective beliefs. There were thousands of such spontaneous discussion groups on the left bank streets. I am attacked about Malraux. Papers said that it was Malraux who placed me as his tool, that is, as an advisor to the Minister of Information in charge of the state-controlled TV. I tell them they are right. Malraux is clearly a fascist traitor. As far back as 1936, he invented Che Guevara in his novels, and Chen, the first, Red Guard, and Regis Debray, the French Maoist, Guevara's companion, now rotting in a Bolivian jail. As Minister of Culture, he was responsible for the building throughout France of 30 maisons de culture, the cultural centers out of which rolled the present tidal wave of student dissent. In short, as the sensitive Catholic writer and shit-eater Maurice Clavel put it in a combat article, André Malraux is an old reactionary pisser and a bastard to boot. The students really give it to me. All my arguments are valid and yours are hot air, but I am wrong and you are right. I don't need your Marxist-Leninist arguments to know that. I have only to remember White Dog or to look at the front page of La Figaro, July 24, 1968. Under the headline, Journey to the Limit of Horror, you will find a soul-scorching article by Jean-Francois Chavel on the starving children of Biafra. The article begins with the words, "O Lord, hear our wrath," and directly beneath the text there is an ad with a charming picture headed, "The New Pleasure Port at Balou-sur-Mer, a Reality, une réalité." There you have it all. This is our society of provocation, of callous baiting at work, raising its skirt and showing a piece of ass on a mass graveyard. That is what makes motives behind student dissent and violence God's own inspired truth. And don't try to tell me there is no other connection than a typographical one between the New Pleasure Port, a Reality, and Biafra's dying millions, because this lack of connection is precisely the most frightening connection, out of which all the revolutions are born. I came out of the Sorbonne depressed, feeling I've left my own youth behind, and it is then that beauty suddenly begins its reign in the Rue de l'École. A lady stops me, a mother. The boy and the girl who are by her side both look like her. She is thin, gray-faced, gaunt and worn out, with her hair in a bun, and she reminds me of the Russian women around 1905 who were preparing the 1917 revolution and got themselves killed or deported to Siberia so that one day their children and grandchildren might get themselves killed or deported to Siberia. A revolution won is a revolution lost. No? All right, friends, give me one single example when this hasn't happened. Give me one example of a revolution that didn't end exactly in that kind of law and order all revolutions rise up against. Monsieur Romain Gary, Monsieur she touches my arm. We need help. Who's we? I know her kind of face. It isn't the sort of face that ever asks something for itself. Who's we, madame? The students? There is a trace of irony in her smile. Oh, you know, the students. I know. And to share this knowledge with you, allow me to present to you here and now a real little jewel. The revolutionary lady with those eyes craving for justice can wait here on the Rue Soufflot sidewalk. She's got plenty of time. She is immortal. I had come across Alan L. on the terrace of Deux Magots, an enlightened millionaire with a fine collection of paintings. I knew him only casually, but we have Walter Goetz in common. There are hundreds of police in the world who have nothing in common except Walter Goetz. Alan L. talked to me worriedly about his son, who was the driving force behind one of those Leninist, Trotskyist, Maoist groups which were popping up all over the place like those succulent mushrooms that real connoisseurs of revolutions like Stalin and today Brezhnev in Prague find so enjoyable in a salad. And lo and behold, this revolutionary enemy of the establishment had come to consult his stinking rich father. The anarchist members of his group had a problem. At great pains, and by all possible means, they had acquired a considerable sum of money, capital, to keep the movement going. But because of the revolution at which they themselves were working so hard, the franc was going down. There was talk of devaluation, and the revolutionary son had asked his capitalist father for some advice. How should the anarchist group go about protecting its capital, that is, its revolutionary nest egg? Should they invest in American stocks, in German marks, in euro dollars, or should they buy gold? I told Alan L., tell him to invest in silver. It's going up. You sure? I don't want to give him a bad tip. If his Maoist, Trotskyist revolutionary group loses its little nest egg, he'll think I deliberately misled him. Why don't you send your anarchist to a good stockbroker? Valmy is a fine traditional firm. I may do that. This millionaire father and his anarchist son discussing the best way of making revolutionary capital grow and prosper represent something that explains political trials, the invasion of Prague, and, generally speaking, the usual way in which all revolutions are betrayed. It represents the triumph of logic over ideas, which is characteristic of all totalitarian thinking, and both the weakness and the pride of what Americans call liberalism and the French humanism lies in the exact opposite. With liberals, ideas are stronger than logic, that is, stronger than expediency. I look at the lady with Don Quixote's face and recognize the fire in her eyes. It is that noble fire of all revolutions waiting to be betrayed. We don't worry about the students so much. It's the situation of the strikers at Renault that is really worrying. The students can take care of themselves. They're all well off. But the workers at Renault... She hesitates. The Communist Party wants to put an end to the general strike. The strike fund has run out and the womenfolk at home are getting fed up. Could you and your friends... Yes, I did hear her say, and your friends, raise enough money so that the Renault workers can keep the strike going? I was looking at a human being armed with that holy naivete which has assured the survival of our species since time immemorial. It would be easy to dismiss her as one of those impractical dreamers whose heads are perpetually in the clouds, as if realism, reality, realpolitik, total rationalism were compatible with an adventure that began with a creature without lungs crawling out of the primeval sea, learning to breathe and becoming Einstein. To accomplish that, it took something other than logic and correct thinking. This woman who knew I was a notorious Gaullist, an official of the establishment, whom every right-thinking leftist had denounced as a reactionary writer, and Moscow's Znamé had once labeled an enemy of the people, she was fully aware of my bourgeois ignominy. She knew that by all the rules of the game, I was one of those against whom the May Revolution was being fought. But she also clearly knew that the rules of the game are a smokescreen for more cheating and falsehood and tactical fakery than any truth can possibly survive, and she was capable of looking beyond all convenient categories and dividing lines. And so she had run after me in the Rue des Escapades and was now asking a notorious Gaullist to start a fundraising campaign among his bourgeois friends so that the strikers at Renault could continue their struggle against Gaullism. The entirely irrational character of her request stemmed from the deepest and most instinctive sort of understanding, the kind that is denounced as idealism from the left and as irresponsibility from the right, but which is essentially something very humble that both these sides lack: a belief in human nature. There is no logic, no rationalism in that. She was a typical liberal of the undying kind. I give her all the money I have on me. She begins to scribble a receipt. Come on, madame, what the hell? I don't need a receipt. There are hoods around the Sorbonne who say they are collecting money for the students but keep it for themselves. Forget it. Please, speak to your friends. If you could raise a few million francs, the wives of the workers can't take it much longer. My left shoulder and forearm begin to shake. That is as close as I have ever yet come to a heart attack. I look at the woman for the last time. I feel I am standing in a street in Moscow back in 1905 with the troops firing at the workers. There are no more women like her in Russia today. The victorious revolution has taken care of that. Chapter 25. Back through the smoke and burning cars of the Boul' Mich', through the milling crowds of Saint-Germain-des-Prés, I watch the last stand of anarchist students from the Beaux Arts Academy with their black flag raised over a mini barricade of overturned cafe tables, garbage cans, and cobblestones. The May Revolution often looked like a release of long accumulated hatred against Paris traffic, with its stinking stream of mechanized garbage cans called automobiles. As I reach the door of my apartment, I hear the characteristic hiccuping ring of transatlantic calls. Jean is on the line from Beverly Hills, and I am almost immediately aware of the deep anxiety in the slightly trembling voice and of her favorite way of reassuring me, which consists of using words as a cover-up for the real meaning. I'm just calling to tell you I'm sleeping out for a night or two. If there's no answer, please don't worry. What's wrong? Nothing. Really. Come on, Jean. What is it? There have been a few telephone threats, and then her voice breaks. They've poisoned the cats. Who? They? No answer. Who? They? She repeats. They've poisoned the cats. Me? No. Chimako and Bang. And after that, another threatening call of The next time, it'll be you, white bitch, type. She adds in a tone of voice that sounds a bit more hopeful. Obviously, it's a provocation. Some white racists doing their usual best. Yeah, whites. Miss Seberg and her usual American optimism. I can almost see some black Saleh Ben Yasif Raktalokam on that phone threatening her, and his words ring in my ears. Don't you stick your nose into our affairs, you white bitch. During the past year alone, this particular white bitch has given away to various black groups the better part of her earnings. They sabotaged my car too. A wheel almost came off. Then someone fired through the kitchen window. While Celia and I were out, I'm going to stay with friends, just a few nights. It was then that I heard my voice say coldly, somewhere outside of myself, speaking in another world, that of the great common denominator of beastliness. Get vodka from the kennels. You won't find a better guard. He'll take care of those bastards. At the other end of the line, a shocked exclamation of disbelief. What? It's you saying that? Yeah, it's me, damn it. Cut the soft stuff out, Gene. Call Carruthers and tell him to bring the dog there immediately. This very minute. Take the dog with you wherever you go. I'll sleep better. You want me to be guarded by a dog trained to jump at black people's throats? Me? Self-defense. Don't be a goddamn racist, Gene. A stinking, shit-eating son of a bitch is a stinking, shit-eating son of a bitch, whatever the color of his skin. She yells, and that is a very rare thing with her. Never. Do you hear me, Romain? Never. Have you told the police? You want me to go tell Redden I'm threatened by blacks after all our protests about police brutalities against them? I swallow a few profanities, the usual sign of helplessness, then slowly catch my breath, a few dollars worth of transatlantic silence. Gene, the most sacred right of a person is to refuse to be manipulated, handled, cheated, and then kicked in the ass. She cuts in. I didn't call you for help or advice. My friends will take care of all this themselves. I just want you to know you won't be able to reach me at Arden. That's all. Don't worry, please. She hangs up. During the next hour, I run round and round in circles at the end of my leash, with the other end held by some unknown hands out there in Los Angeles. I keep telling myself that people who threaten usually stop at that, but there are too many kooks, dope addicts, and paranoids of all colors in my sunny California for any threat to be taken lightly. At about 4 in the morning, I decide to pull some strings, and, thank God, some of the best strings are my friends. I put a call through to one of them, a young black leader, a real one, not merely a black maker, that is, a black who makes it on the backs of blacks. He is the kind of militant lawyer who gets all his questions answered. When I have him on the line, I explain the whole ugly business to him, and on the other side of the Atlantic, there is a long, expressive millionaire's silence which costs about $10, or so it feels. Okay, he tells me at last. I'll see what I can do. I have a feeling it won't be too difficult. It took him 36 hours to give me the information I was asking for, and it turned out to be so sad I wished I had never asked for it. Is it serious? Right now, it's only depressing. I don't think this will surprise you either. Just human nature. Like it or leave it. I think you know the bit. The beautiful, happy, famous, rich movie star who stoops to be part of things, our things. Go on. Well, it's too much. Gene Seberg, for our womenfolk, it's too much. You get it? I am silent. Yes, I get it. It's human, to say the least, and it makes sense. Yes, all the sense in the world. It wouldn't be right to speak of jealousy or envy. It's a great deal prouder than that. Our women live in a state of siege, the militant ones, I mean, and all they have is poverty, fear, and unrelenting pressure. But you see, all the same, it's theirs. It's all theirs. The fear, the agony, the struggle. It's their pride, their only riches. So you see, Romain, when a beautiful movie star steps down to get into that, she suddenly gets all the attention and all the limelight. And our women feel they're being robbed. They begin to feel a movie star is taking their riches away from them. She steals the show. She's robbing them of their suffering, of their anguish, of their blood-soaked sisterhood. You get the picture? Yeah, I get it. Silence again. I feel him as heavy-hearted as I am, but it isn't the same weight. That's why some of their boyfriends organized a little intimidation campaign to get Gene out of the way, so that our women could keep their misery and anguish and their privilege of suffering and of injustice all to themselves without sharing it with a movie star. You see? I see. You know what a movie star becomes when she suddenly comes down into the small, besieged world that's all their own, a world of black dignity and black courage? She becomes a star. She takes it away from the others. That's right. You got it. I got it. So the girls decided to get Gene out of their hair. Now that they've done just that, they're once more the stars of their negritude, of their blackness, and of their besieged black fortress. That's all. Thanks. Right. Be seeing you. Be seeing you. Yes, yes. Thanks again. That's the way things are, Romain. Yes, that's the way they are. I hang up. Talk about black capitalism. They sure want all of it for themselves. Now, at least, I understand why black intellectuals were so hateful and resentful and often beastly when Bill Styron's Confessions of Nat Turner turned out to be such a success. Although their arguments sometimes bordered on delirium, yet they were absolutely right. It was not a matter of a good book, bad book, truth, fiction. It was much more final than that. It was theirs. It was a matter of black ownership. Bill Styron had robbed them. You can't say capitalism is dead in America. The doorbell rings. It is 3 in the morning. I am a man who needs his 8 hours sleep, but for the last few months, it has been nothing but nights of fire, nights of thunder, and something within me has begun to give into a lassitude close to indifference, dangerously close to acceptance and surrender, with the pain and suffering of the world rapidly becoming something of a bore. I guess this is the truest and worst judgment I have ever passed upon myself. The doorbell rings again. Them. Let them stay outside, their hands full of their jealously guarded negritude. Keep it all to yourselves, brothers. I am too weary. When I was young, the world was my oyster, but when maturity sets in, you realize that all the time that you thought you were swallowing the oyster was slowly, mercilessly, bit by bit, swallowing you. But then I get up and open the door. I am cursed with something that I can only call expectancy. Something, sooner or later, will appear, reveal itself, though it takes an incurable hope addict to believe it will actually knock at the door. It's only them, of course. Since my novel, The Roots of Heaven, I have become a kind of left-bank folkheart for Africans in Paris. I glare at them darkly. It is one of those racist moments when the sight of a black skin has the same effect on me as the sight of a white one. We all go into the kitchen and eat hard-boiled eggs. There are a couple of Americans in the group, among them the usual type of Parisian-based black American creep on the CIA payroll, plus a poet from Tennessee who keeps up a non-stop political anti-everything tirade he probably began 24 hours earlier in one of those Latin Quarter cafes where students drop in for an ideological refill between tours of revolutionary duty on the barricades. His voice is so hoarse, one longs to pour oil down his throat. We'll never get anywhere politically as long as we are not represented at the center of all political power in the USA, that is, inside the crime union complex. Hoover accepts crime-controlled unions because honest unions would mean the end of capitalism in America. He spits that out between two hard-boiled eggs. His glasses sparkle with dialectical inspiration under the wild bush of his afro hair, which looks like electrified barbed wire. He pauses, an egg in his mouth, and why is he wearing a woolen scarf around his neck in the middle of May and indoors? He looks like the picture portrait in Black Zinoviev, one of the Bolshevik leaders hanged by Stalin. And at 4 o'clock in the morning, after many a sleepless night, the hard-boiled egg stuck in the middle of that dark face looks like a quick repair job awaiting a coat of paint. Right, the creep says. Absolutely right. So what's the black Maoist Leninist guard intend doing about it? I say, Watch your answer, Pogo. The son of a bitch will take it directly to the CIA. The creep laughs. Since this is a routine crack among black American immigrés in Paris, he can shrug it off. The answer is obvious, and we don't look for precedent in China or anywhere else because there is no precedent. We are acting within a highly organized society, and it requires specific creative thinking. The U.S. is the most sophisticated technological structure the world has ever known and the most fragile. Remember the East Coast electricity blackout? You know what 3 pounds of LSD in the New York water supply can do? The States has the most expensive, complete, and sophisticated military protective shield around the country, and its efficiency is a matter of minutes. 15 minutes for counterattack. But the vulnerability of the inner technological power structure is such that you can have what is known in physics as an implosion, with the whole military complex both intact and harmless, sitting there looking outside. I see the creep's eyes taking notes while there is a thoughtful silence full of hard-boiled eggs. Why is it that the Algerian freedom fighters always cut off the French soldiers' balls and stuff them in their mouths? Said Ibrahim asks. I put my hard-boiled egg back on the plate. The bell rings. I am going to put a sign on my door. Foucault Left Bank, open till 2 a.m. I am so tired I envision myself surrounded by hard-boiled eggs eating black faces. I open the door. It is Koso, the prettiest and tallest Malian girl in Paris. I announce, I am closing down. Go back to Mali for Christ's sake. He doesn't love me anymore, she informs me. Go to the Elise Palace and tell it to Foucault. I can't do a thing about it. Maurice says we're through. He doesn't want me. What am I to do? Go eat hard-boiled eggs in the kitchen. I go to bed, but I can't sleep. I think of Jean. America is a country where the most senseless things can happen, as the Sharon Tate murders were later to prove. It's a country where the crushed, maddened individual becomes a mad group. It is quite possible that within 2 or 3 generations, this process will become a life-saving one, the constructive breaking down of monolithic societies into a cluster of infra-societies, thousands and thousands of Renaissance societies united by their specific creeds and ways of life and independent within a megastructure of economic lifelines. But right now, the groping for something else, something radically different from both mind and soul, takes the form of sickness of both mind and soul. I book a seat on the next plane to Los Angeles, but postpone my departure when a friend calls me to give the news of a final cross of Lorraine march on the Champs-Élysées that afternoon. The last remaining French of World War II, the last of the Cross of Lorraine militant anti-Nazis, anti-Vichy troops of 1940, there are a handful of us left today, will march down the Champs-Élysées that afternoon. A last stand is something I've never been able to resist. I have a profound dislike for majorities. They always become crushing. A majority may sound like a democratic force, but there is usually more force than democracy. So it's easy to imagine my horror when, upon reaching the Champs-Élysées at the Arch of Triumph, instead of being greeted by a few hundred true minoritaires, I am confronted by a yelling, thundering, flag-waving mass of something like 300,000 Gaullists who exude such a stink of total, self-satisfied, superior unanimity that it gives me goose flesh. Gaullist, or whatever this howling, grinning, stamping mass begins to smack of brute force, of final solution, and shows all the unmistakable signs of la connerie. No matter on what side you are, this kind of sheer demographic outpouring sooner or later gives it to you in the ass. To say that the French word minoritaire simply means a member of a minority nowhere near expresses the history of the term, the millenniums of slavery, massacre, suppression, and beastliness combined with self-satisfied, self-righteous superiority it conveys. I am a born minoritaire, and I shall never be anything else, so help me God.
Context of White Supremacy. First audio segment all done. We have one more session left in the book, so folks can be thinking of their concluding thoughts. What will be your lasting impressions from the text? If someone should ask you about this nutty book for some reason, what have you read over this summer? White Dog, what's that about? What do you say? Would you recommend this text to anyone, and why? Lawson, we haven't even got to the final scene. My gosh. Oh, my gosh. What? I will tell you, I think this is the only time I have narrated a number of texts over the years. This is the second time I've narrated this year. Will not be reading anymore maybe until 2022 if we're still in existence by then, but no more narrating for Gus T for a minute. But I have narrated a number of texts. I cannot remember a time where I had to consistently stop and get my composure because I was cracking up laughing. That is the conclusion. Like, it took yoga is mindfulness. Wow, it took a lot of mindfulness to keep it together. Woo, and try to be serious because it is serious. But wow, you understand. This is the whole reason we read the book, man. White Dog, conclusion coming up. Anywho, until then, the number is 720-716-7300. The code 564-943#. Press star 61 if you would like to participate. Number again, 720-716-7300. The code 564-943#. Press star 61 if you would like to participate. Next book, since we are going to finish this today, not talking about anything else. White Dog is the focus for the day. But the next book will be Isabel Wilkerson's Cased, just because we read her work before, top 10. Just came out. Folks were interested. I was interested, even though, as I said, I'm not necessarily excited about this text. But we shall see. But that's for next week. This week, White Dog. And we will start off one of our listeners. He wrote commentary in last week on chapter 24 that we did not get to include, so we'll get that now, and then we can move forward with our commentary from this week. So chapter 24, which we got this week, the author spends this chapter mocking everyone, a non-white victim, Kaba the student, one of the C.O.W.S. riot police, leftist protesters, and the gray-faced woman. The following passage, I think, explains his thinking behind this. I go in the spirit of nihilistic terrorism. I've inherited from my spiritual fathers, W.C. Fields and the Marx Brothers, a desecrating hygiene, a puncturing all pompous self-importance of all deadly grips of conformity and over-seriousness. It is a form of terrorist attack on everything in sight from which only true values emerge unscathed. Satire, irony, and parody and humor are the test of true value, but go tell that to the French intellectuals. Terrorism, in the spirit of nihilistic terrorism. Use that word a lot on the program. Continuing, this passage also strikes me as self-congratulatory on Gary's part and indicative of his arrogant tone throughout the text. He does not explain his purpose for being a nihilistic terrorist. I think he is using the term instead of a more conventional word, provocateur, in order to burnish his own intellectual credentials while at the same time denigrating the intellect of others. He implies that he is a provocateur simply for the sake of being one without a specific goal. Moreover, the term satire, irony, parody, and humor are often conflated and misunderstood, which I am also guilty of. I would be interested to hear what Dr. Kevorkian thinks about the definitions and distinctions between these terms and their usage in literature. Note for next time he comes on the program, admitted racist, white supremacist. It may be constructive to understand these terms better, particularly when understanding the writings of suspected racists. Agreed. Number 2, a revolution won is a revolution lost. No. All right friends, give me one single example when this hasn't happened. Give me one example of a revolution that didn't end exactly in the kind of law and order all revolutions rise up against. From the compensatory counter-racist codified word guide, according to the word guide, the word revolution should be avoided. Instead, practice using the words compensation or compensatory, making up for what is missing. That is also needed and should be provided. When others use the word revolution, ask for a detailed explanation that can be easily understood. Very important. Chapter 24. So you wrote that last week, but we didn't get to it till this week. Now we are all set, ready to roll for this week. Folks who have commentary on the first portion of the reading, if you have observations, questions, thoughts to share, line should be open. Proceed. Let's see. Did I miss? See, thought we had at least one hand up. Folks ready to roll if they need a moment to get your thoughts and all that good stuff together. Again, this is our last session on White Dog, so if you have closing thoughts, feel free.
Can I be heard?
Oh, that's for sure. Is this, let's see, Henry in Chicago?
It's Mo from Dallas.
Mo from Dallas, sorry. Yes, sir.
If you would, you can go ahead and read your notes. I have to get to a safe space so I can speak. I need like a minute or two. I'm walking now.
Oh, for sure. Be safe. Be safe. Let's see. We'll read. This is our investor. He was sharing on chapter 24. So we'll see for chapter 25, which we did get to this week. Gary, now I at least understand why black intellectuals were so hateful and resentful and often beastly when Bill Styron's Confessions of Nat Turner turned out to be such a success. Although their arguments sometimes bordered on delirium, yes, yet they were absolutely right. It was not a matter of a good book, bad book, truth, fiction. It was much more than that. It was theirs. It was a matter of black ownership. Bill Styron had robbed them. Gary demeans in a backhanded manner the legitimate criticisms of Styron's Pulitzer Prize-winning text by black intellectuals. The book has been mentioned on the Cows. An excellent analysis of Styron's text is in the Cows Book Club selection the Delectable Negro, top 10. Woodard's book offers, I think, a more credible view of the analysis by black intellectuals during the time of Styron's fictional account was published. Absolutely. We talked about that. You read it in Delectable Negro. We talked about that a few times on the program. I do want to pause 1 second just to include that chunk on law and order. I said consistently, it has been amazing. Maybe that's part of what has influenced, what I have gained or thought gleaned from this text, to have law and order being talked about every day right now. And then we're reading this book and it keeps popping up. It's absolutely amazing. Time is right and exact. We are supposed to be, although that's such a common theme, we probably could have read this book at a number of different points where this would have lined up exactly. But I mean, wow, on so many levels, protests and law and order, the dogs, like, wow, China, wow, amazing. Let's see, continuing. Number 2, there are a couple of Americans in the group, among them in the usual type of Parisian-based black American creep on the CIA payroll. Right, the creep says absolutely right. So what's the black Maoist, Leninist guard intend to do about it? I say, this is Gary, watch your answer, Pogo. The son of a bitch will take it directly to the CIA. Gary continues to disparage the remarks regarding a black male, a major theme of this text. I think Pogo is a reference to a comic strip of the same name, which was popular in American newspapers. Pogo, the central character, was an opossum. Niggers, apes, alligators, coons, and possums. It combined children themes with a subtext of adult political satire. I think someone like Romain probably would have known about this cartoon. Good observation. Let's see. Number 3. Gary, I go to bed, but I can't sleep. I think of Gene in America. America is a country where the most senseless things can happen, as the Sharon Tate murders were later to prove. It is interesting that Gary gives short shrift to this horrific and infamous crime perpetrated by the deceased racist Charles Manson, who was trying to incite a so-called race war by trying to blame the murders on black people. I said the exact same thing. I said the Tate murders, is he talking about Charles Manson? Because I was thinking, like, wow, for this to be considered, like, that's the time that this happened is when he's writing the book. Like, he would have said more than just the Tate murders. And I was like, he is talking about them. Like, oh, my God, like, how is he just going to, like, gloss over the same way that he just kind of glossed over Dr. King's assassination to get to, well, maybe the niggers killed him because, you know, the black people in it, and no Count Stokely Carmichael. The same way that he glossed over that, it just, oh, yeah, the Tate murders. They wrote off the pegs and all this nonsense on the wall. Come on. Yeah, I said the exact same thing. And Charles Manson just died, who became a literary figure and cult hero himself. I said the exact same thing. Like, that stuck out in such an enormous manner to just gloss over that. That is probably one of the most important events. Last 50 years, I think that's probably top 25. Y'all can, 9/11, major things, Kennedy assassination, whatever you think over the past, I guess we'd have to put back to the last 55 years or so. But I think it's in the top 25. Trump's election, I think it's in the top 55, top 25 for the last 55 years. There we go. Number 4, sorry. Gary speaking. I am a born member of a minoritaire, and I shall never be anything else, so help me God. This is a characteristic grievance of a suspected racist. Instead of centering his concern for non-white victims, he resorts to framing the narrative in terms of his own supposed victimization. I agree. He does a lot of that in the text, I think. We'll pause there. Investor has more to go. We have more in the text as well. Mo in Dallas, I don't know, are you in a safe spot, or did you need a little bit more time to kind of get yourself together?
I'm in a safe spot. Can I be heard?
Absolutely.
Okay. Bush has a brew for dogs. I thought that was very interesting. I don't have much to say on it, but I did take my daughter to a cupcake shop once, a really, really high-dollar cupcake shop, I might add, and it was interesting because they also had, like, specialty cupcakes for dogs, and so that was, it's not surprising. I've seen, I've came on the show and said that I was instructed to get my dog socks, and I didn't know they sold socks for dogs. So, well, dogs are dogs, and it must be nice to be a dog. Chapter 24, Gary claims to have been knocked out and then receive an erection. He's still a degenerate. I think he gets off on knowing that people dressed the way he were dressed, addressing officers, will get knocked out. He enjoyed that, and he praised the officer for knocking him out. He had a quote, "I myself have a dog specially trained to go after scum." He's bragging about the dog that he was supposedly trying to work to rehabilitate or something. So I think he likes the dog. He wants the dog. He calls a Frenchman a Jew, he calls a Frenchman a kike. I'm sorry. And it is, to call a Frenchman a Jew is the worst thing you can say about his mother. Then he says the French are not anti-Semitic, but it's still an insult. I thought that was very interesting. It was a little word salad there. I had to wrap my mind around what he was saying. And I totally forgot he himself was a Jew until later on in the text. But he's like being antagonistic. I thought that was interesting. And he was trying to incite violence, and he was proud of himself for it. Like, again, he's a glutton for violence and degeneracy. The rules of the game the rules of the game are smoke screens for more cheating. That reminds me of the two golden rules. Golden rule 1, do as others as you would have them do unto you. And the golden rule that I prefer is he who has the goal makes the rule. A lot of rules are put in place just so the creator of the rules can assure that they win the game, because they're not going to follow the rules, cheat codes and whatnot. That's all I have for Chapter 24. Chapter 25, using words as a cover-up for the real meaning. That is codification. We see that a lot. People saying things and meaning other things, and if you're not familiar with what they're saying, you can get confused, or you can be agreeing to something that you don't know that you're agreeing to. I also believe that's how semantics is practiced. Like, it is very important to get clear definitions on what exactly we're talking about, like in reference to the word revolution, or just not using it. The most sacred right of a person is to refuse to be cheated, manipulated, or kicked in the ass. I thought that was very interesting, because that is one right that victims of racism do not get to partake in. We are told we are honorable if we allow ourselves to be cheated, manipulated, and or kicked in the ass, or shot in the back, or harmed, or insulted, or subjugated. It's honorable when we do it. You're the honorable Negro if you do that. He said he contacted a black leader, and he called it the Black Maker. That's a black who makes his way on the backs of blacks. I thought that was very interesting. And I think he was describing like sellouts or things of that nature, agent provocateurs and whatnot. people who curtail power for their own individual gain. Kind of a look at me type of guy or person. When a beautiful movie star steps down into that, she gets all of the limelight. Stepping down into that, meaning the plight of, quote unquote, the people or the cheated. She becomes queen of the niggers, if you ask me. That's what it sounded like they were describing in so many words. Or a parasite or an energy vampire. You know, when a person like that steps down into a movement, she does get much more attention, and she's viewed as, you know, down to earth. And Gary's familiar that that's the way the game is played, and I think that's why he agrees with his wife doing what she's doing, because he understands that's how they finance their life, you know, in so many ways. Or it's one of the ways to finance their lives. I wasn't going to write this down because I was kind of giving him credit at first, but hard-boiled eggs. I'm thinking he was referring to white testicles. And when I heard it, I was like, okay, maybe just eating eggs is not typical. But whatever. But later in the text, he says he was visualizing hard-boiled eggs eating black faces. And if you ask me, that was an example of dominance, genetic dominance. He wants to wipe out black people with his white testicles. Sorry for that, but that's what I got from it. What does it say? Majority sounds like a democratic force, but it's usually more force than democracy. I thought that was interesting, being at the times that we're in, simply because there's an outcry of this nation saying that the white supremacists will not be the majority, and after a while, and they are expressing themselves as such. I don't know if the facts are true about them not being the majority, but they are exercising force that they haven't been. So I thought that was very interesting to be written in the book. That's all I have for now. Thank you. I'm in my line.
Much obliged, Mo in Dallas. I think eggs are seen as a symbol of fertility. That's what the whole bunny rabbit, also fertility, and the egg thing for Easter and spring rejuvenation. I think that's accurate observation. I'm glad you shared that one, amongst all the other observations as well. Star 6-1, if other folks have thoughts, questions, final thoughts, we are all done. Can't believe it went so quickly. I'll get to some of my thoughts as well, and then check in again. Let's see. I feel like throughout the text he has demeaned pretty much every black person that has been mentioned: Stokely Carmichael, Ralph Abernathy, Kaba, Red, Mr. Keys, any and all black people that are referenced in the text are belittled, demeaned in some way. He talks about animals with more humanity, and I chose that word specifically. He talks about even the dogs, Barca, animals with more humanity than any black people mentioned in the book. But the way that he talks about Kaba, a mixture of African dream and Marxist dialects, with Sherman Mayo taking over from the witch doctors, like, wow. Let's see. The next, where he says he's describing the guard who struck him, full balls, full ass. I suspect that Mr. Romain Gary is engaged in some sort of homoerotic, so-called homosexual activity, just it's lots of the signs, him being an older white man who is consistently engaged in these sexual arrangements with young enough to be his child women, and lusting after in a really deviant manner super pregnant women, like 2 months from delivery pregnant, who are married and their husband is there. Just all of this incorrect sexual fetishization of black and non-white people that he's talked about. It very much strikes me as Jeffrey Epstein, Harvey Weinstein, Kevin Spacey, all of that incorrect sexual behavior and homoerotic behavior. There's so much of it that's focused. I think our investor who's been writing, so much of it is focused on black males and their physique and the way that he describes them. And even this right here, going again right to the anus, the genitals, consistently throughout the text. He uses a lot of French in this text. The first edition of this book was published in French. We're reading the English version. I totally get it. When he's describing cities, geographic locations that are in French, that's what it is, right? But he has a lot of points where he is not describing a location, and he's just using French just for the sake of French. In my view, that is a part of the narcissism, and I'm speaking French either because I'm showing at times he brags about being a Frenchman, and I think sometimes white people like to brag and show out with their writing, and he does that in a lot of different ways in this book, even when it's all in English. But it's also non-constructive as a reader because a lot of times he has French in the text, and it's not translated. This book was published in 1970. 50 years from when the book was published, it's 30 seconds. You can whip out your phone, your tablet, whatever, and Alexa, Matrock, what is that? Oh, okay, no problem. If I was reading this book in 1980, 1990, didn't have an iPhone, didn't have Siri, might not have an English to French dictionary or vice versa, I might be missing a lot of really important components of this book. He could have just said baton. There's no reason to have matrock and then not to have the English translation in the English version of the book, and that's done a lot in this text, and I feel like that's another point of the narcissism of Romain Gary. What is the artistic value? You can't say baton, so we know what's being described here? Continuing, and then he goes right back to, and the caller mentioned it, he gets struck with a baton, and then he has this blackout or what have you, and even that is accompanied with a splendid hard-on. Violence, sexual arousal for white people. We talk about that with lynching. We should see that as something sexual, as a sexual act for white people because the castration is accompanied so frequently. We'll talk about that later. Let's see. Then he has another scene where he demeans Kaaba with the whole so-called pidgin French, and I just interpret that as another means of degrading black people, unless people think it's something else. Let's see. This is another one. Okay, so he goes back out, and I'll even pause there. So he gets struck by the police, goes in. He's got his diplomatic papers and all that. I'm a distinguished white man. Okay. Now he goes in, and we have to remember from last week, he was excited about going home. I said that last. I compared him to Chris Kyle. He said he was excited. Wow, revolution in France. I got to get back. Let me get on a plane. Grenades. I want to be there to smell the smoke. And I said, that is white. That's why I said there's so many aspects of this book. What does it mean to be white? Mr. Fuller has talked about that, where he said he has heard white people who say, peace is boring. Let's see if we can start a fight. Let's get something riled up around here. And he says that exactly in the book. He gets that. I said, for us to be reading this book right now, this is freaking Kyle Rittenhouse. I need to go out and get something started up here. Let's see if I can go out and get them riled up, call somebody some names. See if I can go out and call somebody some names, get my costume on. This is Antifa right here. It's Romain Gary. Like, my God, I cannot believe we're reading this book right now. This is the Boogaloo. He goes out to do his name calling, and he says, I see one of these young French students. The bastard is one of those typical French proletarian types, Galois in his mug. Banana. Now, look, he breaks down that insult. A terrible insult. This is real hitting below the belt. Though a banana has the right shape, it is a notoriously soft fruit. Erectile dysfunction. So that's the first insult. So how does Romain Gary respond? Cuckoo, this is another one. If you don't know what cuckoo means in French, well, you're going to miss one. Now, again, in 2020, as long as you're not a lazy reader, which I encourage folks not to be, if you see words or if you have the misfortune of reading a book that is in English, however, the author, probably a white person, and the publishers, probably white, probably a white woman, choose to have a whole lot of non-English words in the book. One of the ways white people practice racism, deceptive with language, they choose to have a lot of non-English words in the book that are not translated. So what does cuckoo mean in French? Cuckold. We just spent that whole section last week talking, and that's one that like really bothered me because it's like, wow, that's important. Like he spent all that time talking about the French obsession, he said. That was the word he used, with sleeping with black people and get a black guy and have him come home and have sex with your white French wife. He spent all that time talking about that last week in English. Why not translate? Because that's a big one to just sneak that by and leave it in French. So then if you're, like I said, if you're a lazy reader, or if you just happen to read this book in the first, 1970, so about the first 25 years, when you're probably not going to have easy Wi-Fi access, internet access, man, maybe you get everything that's being, presented in the book. Maybe you miss a whole lot of things. C.O.W.S. And he says this is just a warm-up. And even pause for a moment. Didn't that become a cuck? Didn't that become an insult circa 2016, our current president's triumph? That became a U.S. insult. You can go look. They had tons of articles. We talked about that, calling people a cuck, something emasculated about you, something wrong with your penis. Banana, you're not quite a man. There's a reason, I keep saying, there's a reason this book is in my top 10. Even though I don't like the way it's written, there's a reason, begrudgingly, it's in my top 10. What does it mean to be white? Every page, you just walk right down. Then what does he follow Cuckoo up with? So the other guy said, go home and get your balls back from your wife. The only insults these are white strangers, presumably, the only insults you know are with the white genitals? Let me say something about your genitals. Let me say something about your genitals. Let me say your genitals don't work. Your genitals are defective. I thought somebody wrote a whole book about that. White, what did she say? She said it was white genetic inferiority. There's a reason I keep saying top 10. You would, I think, have to have a better understanding of white. I don't think you could read this book like first and grasp everything about it. But if you have an understanding of white supremacy, racism, what you're looking at, what you're reading, oh, man. Man, I wish Dr. Welsing, we could have got her to read this and comment like, wow. Did you see the movie? Gosh. Anyway, and it just continues. You have a pair of balls back of your ass, all right, I tell you, but they're never the same pair. What did I just say? Who would even make an insult like that? All of this homoerotic talk. That's why I said last week when he spent all that time talking about cuckold, I suspect Romain Gary was involved in that. It's no way you're going to be focused in this manner on black males and their physique and consistently talking in this kind of way about genitals and other male genitals, and then lusting after pregnant women that are 30 years younger than you and all the rest of it. That would not register to me unless someone, wow, you are really into some incorrect sexual behavior, probably some homoerotic, so-called homosexual activity. Jeffrey Epstein keeps saying that. Harvey Weinstein keeps saying that. They were hanging out with Kevin Spacey. Let's see. And he just continues in his Boogaloo Roll. So he goes out, he just does his whole name-calling homoerotic exchange with the first guy. Then he goes and he sees these group of students in this a Kyle Rittenhouse. This is the Boogaloo. This is right now. What is it? September 3, 2020. This is right now. Romain Gary, Roman. Let me get something started up here. Let me get a firecracker. Let me get it. This seems like it's quiet around here. Let me see if I can get folks around. Who are we upset about? What's his name again? George Floyd. That's it. Yeah, George Floyd gets riled up again. He comes back. He says they need a helping hand, a bit of goading to get them back in action. As my head still feels twice its size and full of broken rocks, I'm a victim. I feel I am still in debt to the police. They just start yelling, down with the foreigners. French for just yell anything. I said, this is white people. Fake protest. I said that last week. Fake protest. His wife, he put her into Gene Seberg. Fake protest. Fake outrage. Oh, it's terrible. What is it? The 1%. They did that in 2011. Occupy Wall Street. They do Vietnam sometimes. Students for Democratic Society. They got a lot of different names for it. Now, there'd be a whole lot of different hashtags for it to come out. We're upset about something. The frogs, the dolphins, the negroes. Come on. Romain Gary, fake white protesters, and we're accused of gaming whitey. Let's see. I thought it was important he bumps into this white woman who's begging for money for the strikers. She says the students are fine, but the general strikers, they're having a tough time, and he gives her all this money. Then we had all this comment and skepticism about gaming whitey. Negroes are taking all this money. His wife is giving away half her earnings. He says that there's some suspicion about the same thing happening here. That's human nature, right? I don't need a receipt. Just take the money. That's wow. That's why I said he gives everybody a lot more humanity than black people. Black people are consistently demeaned. And it doesn't matter who they are, any black person. Let's see. Like I said, when he's talking to Gene now. He skips forward, and she's telling him that the cats have been allegedly poisoned. Pause right here. This is not the first time that we've heard an account of a dog or cat being poisoned on the cows. Pause for Nat King Cole. Natalie King Cole, his daughter, who died right at the same time as Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, she recounted when they had the privilege of moving to a white neighborhood in California, probably very close to where frickin' Romain Gary was hanging out with vodka. They talked about moving in, and someone wrote nigger in their yard, and I believe someone poisoned their dog. I will double-check before we go out there, but I believe we've already heard this. I know a group of people who are notorious for this sort of thing. We don't like having negroes in the neighborhood or an association with negroes. Poison your dog. Anyway, poison your pet. Anyway, he says, I can almost see some black Saleh Ben Yasef rock the locum. He does that with the name. He had the one last week just mocking black. That's why I said we had Dr. Tyler Perry on the program. He said, yes, this is a racist, talking about Romain Gary. Thomas in New York asked, and he said, yes, he's racist. Just look at the way that he talks about black people. Every page. Let's see. But, yeah, I'm convinced the negroes have come and poisoned my wife, and maybe they did. I don't know. I wasn't there. But I do know white people have a history of this sort of behavior, and I do know that these individuals later claimed to be victims of COINTELPRO. They were very good at committing crimes and blaming it on black people. That's not gusty. That's a matter of record. Now, and so then he hears all this, Salah bin Yasef, blah, blah, blah. Stokely Carmichael is threatening my white wife. Get vodka from the kennels. You won't find a better guard. He'll take care of those bastards. Even that word, bastard, illegitimate child, right? But he's consistent because that's used throughout the text. Get vodka. Like, wait a minute. I thought vodka was just the nigger-hating police dog. Like, he's indiscriminate. It's not, if I'm threatened, it's just anybody. Black person comes to clean the pool. Black person comes to take out the trash. Like, whoa. Like, wait a minute. Like, get vodka? Any black person that is consistent have heard that before. One black person, there's a conflict or problem with one black person, that becomes pretext to kill all the niggers. We got to burn down the whole town. That doesn't happen with white people. Doesn't seem to happen with any other group of people. I can't think of when have they done that. Do they do that for so-called Asians? Any other groups of people? One individual does something, so now we got to burn down the whole town and kill them all, and then they do this repeatedly, hundreds of times? Let's see. And then he accuses her of being a racist. He says, don't be a racist, Gene. A stinking shit-eating, there's that word, son of a bitch, is a stinking shit-eating son of a bitch. Say it twice. And you're a racist for not getting this racist dog to chomp on some black people. Amazing. Let's see. He calls a young black leader, and I said, this is important. Number one, all the leaders of black people are white. He says he calls a young black leader a real one, not merely a black maker. That is a black, I said that consistently, not a black person, it's the blacks. Even degrading just when he says black, talking about a supposed person, but a black who makes it off the backs of blacks. Gaming whitey, gaming blackie, those are the biggest problems in the known universe, according to Romain Gary. Let's see. So he calls this black guy who figures it out. I am super suspicious of this whole exchange here. Maybe it happened, one, I'm suspicious because he doesn't name this guy. This was such a cool, smart black attorney, maybe it was Johnny Cochran, who got all of his questions answered. Why not name this person? You know him. You've named all these other folks that you're hanging out with, Robert Kennedy and everybody else. Why not name drop? But let's decide the point. So his wife is threatened, and ostensibly they have 2 kittens killed, which is a crime. They should have called the police, in my opinion, because black females are jealous about this white woman, Jean Seberg, coming in and hanging out with black people. I'm a little bit suspicious of that anecdote. Not that I haven't heard that before. Not that we didn't hear this during the Civil Rights Movement, talk about black people, Julian Bond for one, where white women were coming just to hook up with black males and all that, but I'm a little suspicious of this anecdote. This is white people as victims. Was gaming whitey that rampant in the 60s and 70s? Like, really? Someone should write a book on that. Can we get more detail on gaming whitey in the 60s and 70s and beyond if it is continuing? Let's see. He said just the term beastly, that's how he describes the critique of Bill Stiver. We already talked about that, Delectable Negro, but they're beastly critiques, not men, not women. You're not even people. Niggers, apes, alligators, coons, possums, beasts. Let's see. When he's talking about this black guy who comes to his apartment later on, he says he's on the CIA, a black American creep on the CIA payroll. He says he wants to pour oil down his throat. It gave me a sexual sense, number one, and it also kind of reminded me of Delectable Negro, like force feeding someone. He talked about a lot of that in Vincent Woodard's text. But, yeah, that one stood out, and then he comes right behind that is a glass of sparkle with a dialectical inspiration under the wild bush of his afro hair, which looks like electrified barbed wire. Cousins, I remember white man referred to, at the time, she was Congresswoman Cynthia McKinney, said that her hair looked like, a Brillo pad. They got all kinds of creative. Boy, you talk about the creative juices flowing. Ooh-wee, let me find some ways to talk about nigger hair. Electrified barbed wire. Yes. I will pause here. He does mention, or it's coming up later. Yeah, I'll pause here. I'm so glad we got in the Charles Manson portion. I'll pause here and see if folks have any other comments before we get to section 2, which is a little lengthy just because we are closing the book out today. But, man, you have not heard the conclusion, which is spectacular. Man, oh, man. Let's see. We'll assume folks are satisfied for the moment, or at least pondering. We will get in our second audio segment, as I said, just because it's a little bit longer, but be thinking of final thoughts, questions, observations, anything that you want to get in before we wrap up. Wowee, the conclusion. Jot down any thoughts if you have anything you want to make sure you get in before we get to the second audio segment. White Dog, we will see him again. Mr. Keys, they will all be here for the conclusion. This is Romain Gary's White Dog. We're picking up on chapter 26, the conclusion.
Chapter 26. I fly back to Beverly Hills the next morning, and as soon as I reach the house, I hear a sad, desperate meowing inside. Siamese cats always sound unhappy, but when they are in pain, their voices are heartbreaking. The house is empty. Me is a little gray skeleton staring at me with her pink glowing eyes. She is dying. Those black sons of bitches have poisoned her, just as they poisoned Bang and Chimako. I take her in my arms, and with all those sleepless nights and tension behind me, my iron nerves snap, and I begin to cry out of sheer hatred and frustration. She speaks to me, looks at me intently, tries to tell me something. Yes, I know. You really had nothing to do with it all. I can't stop my goddamn tears. I stay there for an hour or 2 or 3, hating. Jean comes back from work and finds me trying to feed me with an eyedropper. I stand up and look at her with the kind of face I have when I am no longer trying to hide the kind of face I have. Why didn't you tell me they poisoned me? Just who are you protecting exactly, and from what? Are you shielding those black bastards or my sensitivity? But there's no but. A brute is a brute, whatever the color of his skin. I've had enough of these black skunks being treated like fragile china just because of their color. That's blackmail. She is crying. Her face always seems to revert to childhood when she hurts and burns inside with a feeling of injustice, and she looks utterly exhausted and lost. Jeannie, leave me alone. The Middle West all comes back in that nasal alone. Me hasn't been poisoned. She's sick. It's got nothing to do with them. I take her to the clinic every day. The vet says it's a degenerative liver disease. He can't do anything about it. Where's the kid? With my family. Degenerative disease, my ass. They poisoned her. They haven't touched her. She yells and runs out. I hear the car pull off full speed with a furious screeching of tires and remain alone with the cat on my knees. I feel I am touching the rock bottom of loneliness, a record of some sort, though when it comes to breaking the records of loneliness, each of us is a champ. I phone Pan Am and book a seat for Mauritius in the Indian Ocean. I have a friend who went to live there 25 years ago. Maybe he is still around. Then Jean comes back, sits next to me, and holds my hand. She has very small hands. I spend the next few days watching me die. I can't stand that voice, that protest. Katzenellenbogen shows up and explains in that rational, no-nonsense, doctoral tone that no one has the right to make such a fuss over a cat while the whole world... I kick them out, both him and the world. Me is no longer a cat. She is a human being in agony. Every living thing that suffers is a human being. She is cuddled in my arms, a small ball of lackluster fur, which gives her a horrible stuffed air already smacking of taxidermists. Every now and then she raises her head, looks at me inquiringly, and meows a question I understand but am unable to answer. Our vocal cords are totally inadequate there. What goings on about a mere cat, huh? I hate your guts, you anti-sentimental, anti-emotional, hard-headed rationalist. You are the ones who have raised the going rate on sensitivity. You have put all your emphasis on ideas, and ideas without emotions and without sentimentalism. That's the world you have built your work. All the pseudo people who have the Nazi arrogance to be reading this book make my hands ache for a grenade. I don't think I did enough back there in Paris. I could have poured more oil on the sacred fire. Dear God, I do hope you'll give me another chance. Me dies on June 7 at 3:30 in the morning, and we bury her in Cherokee Lane under the most beautiful trees in the world. She was a great tree climber. There is at least one person who will understand. Dear André Malheureux, me, the Siamese you met at my house, died this morning after a long illness. We buried her under the eucalyptus trees at the corner of Beaumont Drive and Cherokee off Coldwater Canyon. I thought you ought to know. Yours, R.G. Around 7 in the evening, a dark blue Chevy stops in front of the house. Another car pulls up behind it with two blacks who remain in the front seat, the engine running, while a third gets out, stops in the middle of the sidewalk, and stands there smoking with that falsely relaxed, unconcerned air of a professional bodyguard. Then the driver of the first car gets out and starts toward the house. I watch this stranger through the bay window, but it is almost dark, and it is only as he raises his hand to ring the bell that I recognize Red. He has changed beyond belief. Physically, to begin with, he has shaved his head completely, and his bulging skull gives him a curiously oriental look. But it's the eyes that have changed the most. I don't quite know how to describe this change. His eyes seem to have lost their ability to see the outside world. They seem to be looking inside with only whatever is purely mechanical in our vision, still registering a bare minimum of the world around them. It is something quite different from blindness, exactly the opposite, in fact. It is as if everything that really mattered, the true world, the real vision, was all inside, and the rest was only steps, staircases, objects, a routine of opening and closing doors. Seen from outside, his eyes do no more than function in a kind of elementary bureaucracy of living and motion. He walks in without a word, sits down. The face is expressionless. The shaved head bulges in a weird symmetry with a slight recession in the middle. He has grown a small mustache. The necktie is undone. The silence is an invitation to more silence. I am unable to utter a word. The square, broad-shouldered hulk of a body is as impressive as ever, yet its immobility no longer carries the suggestion of pent-up, hidden, burning energy, but of petrified matter. This is a statue that would have stood one day in a Washington square if America knew how to recognize its own greatness. Gene comes down the stairs to greet him, and he says, "Hello," quietly, with a bare flicker of the old smile. "Can I spend the night here?" "Of course." He waves away the glass of scotch, looks at me. "I better warn you, it might get you in trouble with the police." "That's all right. I can't keep the police out of my life forever. There's a limit." "Red?" "Yeah." "What's it all about?" "Nothing. Now." "Nothing?" "Yep. Philip's been killed." It's the hour when the rooks get noisy up there in the trees. He was leading a patrol in Viet Cong country, and he got caught. Killed, that is. He looks at the opposite wall. "He was a lieutenant, you know. His CO wrote me a personal letter. The best officer he ever had. That's what the letter says. The best." There is a strange expression of surprise in his eyes, as if he had suddenly remembered something. "Well, you know, of course, why Philip was doing all this. Don't get it wrong." "I won't." The best officer that colonel, what's his name, ever had the privilege of having in his command. That's what the letter says. Philip sure had what it takes. The right kind of rage, I mean. The kind that lifts mountains. The youngest black kid to be made a full lieutenant out there. He was training hard. Just the fighting kind we need here. 2 stars on his DC. They gave him all the medals. They taught him real good, and he'd learned good, and he could have done quite a job here. He lapses suddenly into French, speaking words he had learned from me years ago, Foreign Legion slang. "C'est un seul coup, mon vieux. Un seul coup pour la fanfare." A real mean blow. I keep my mouth shut. It always comes easier than words. Night has fallen. The waxen yellow glow of a lamp with orange and red birds painted over yellow silk. Jean is sitting on the staircase, her head low, her hands clasping her knees. The rooks have buried the day and are quiet. The 7 p.m. sound of traffic from Santa Monica. He will never know. He will go through life proud of his militant son. He will never know it isn't the Black Army that lost one of its future guerrilla leaders, but the U.S. Army that lost one of its young American officers who had decided to make a career serving under the Star-Spangled Banner. It's been months since I last got a letter from him, and now this. He asks absent-mindedly, almost as if out of courtesy to me, "How's Ballard?" You know how it is for an American living in Paris. He feels uprooted over there, wants to come home. He shouldn't have deserted. He should have stayed in the army. That's where you learn all you need to know when you're black. But then Ballard hasn't got it in him. Not tough enough. Well, of course, I can understand that. He's against the war, like a lot of black kids who aren't highly motivated enough. He is lying. Not to me and Jean. He is lying to himself. He knows Ballard didn't give a damn about Vietnam. He deserted to be with the girl he loved, the most natural way in the world of not deserting, and because he was a young man of his generation, and this means refusal to submit, refusal to carry the burden and the dead weight of rotten traditions on his shoulders, he was like many of our kids, young enough to feel the times while condemned to be part of them. Pools of yellowish light stagnate on the shaved head and around the cheekbones of this totally immobile face, which seems hacked out of shadows, and the eyes remind me of the last time me looked at me. He is lying. He can no longer face reality, and he is seeking refuge in his fantasy. One of the best, the most remarkable Americans that America has ever destroyed has been condemned to an imaginary world, to a mythical black realm, to dreams and unreality, like one of those old-time African kings. I can't take it anymore. I can't take it in him. What they really want is for me to show resistance. You know, an excuse for shooting me. The old routine. Cops specialize in legitimate self-defense. Mais pas j'ai tué un mec. I killed a guy. A cop? Yes. Well, no. A black provocateur. Same thing. They don't sign receipts for the pay they get, you know. We can't afford the kind of money it takes to get at the FBI files. All we know is that some niggers showed up at one of our meetings and gunned down 3 of our young brothers. Students. I got one of the murderers the next day. It wasn't a matter of revenge, you know. I don't believe in that. But there comes a moment when you have to show you have blood on your hands or you're back where you started. A nigger. And never mind the fact that this is exactly what our enemies want us to do. We still have to do it. It's not a question of choice. Like it, dislike it. It's not about me or Coringa or Rap Brown or Huey Newton or any of us, good or bad. It's about that 14-year-old kid sitting on the ghetto sidewalk and watching us with those big, attentive eyes. Red, how many militants have been killed by blacks? Not by blacks, by guys who look black. There is a trace of the old, ironic, almost Pigalle smile again. Some of us are just painted black, you know? You rub the paint off, and what do you see? Du pognon. Money. What are you going to do? I don't know. I just have to see into what position they'll maneuver me, the morgue, the chair, jail, or exile. Well, exile is out. I'm not going to leave the country. It's mine, and it stays mine. Let 'em bury me. that'll make one goddamn piece of earth mine for keeps. Period. I have nowhere to go anyway. I've been to Africa, you know, and man, I was a total stranger there. Castro's out. Cleaver's been there, and it's not the answer. I'll try to find a good lawyer, one of those guys who give the police so much trouble and make such a stink that the heat prefers to leave you alone. His voice sinks deeper in, down and down, as if in search of the very depth of his rancor. The game consists of pushing us to a point where we'll side with the ABC enemies of America, Castro, Peking, Moscow, and lose our American character in the eyes of our own people. When the Panthers turned Maoist, that was a great all-white victory. Or else go into exile. But of course, what they really want is to encourage a power struggle within the black movement. That's real cream for those FBI cats. We just off each other the old Chicago way. But there's an even better way, and it works, man. Yes, indeed. We're walking right into it, and that goes for me too, because there's no way around that trap. The voice rises again out of its subterranean ashes. It is once more the strong, deep voice I know so well, and his earthy, manpower hands lock, almost biting into each other. The pattern is very clear, all traced out, you know. The point is, no matter how clearly you see it, you can't avoid following it, because the kids don't listen to words. They want heroes, and they want to know and remember their names. Up to now, we mostly talked violence, but there comes a time for all people in a state of siege and who feed only upon themselves, a moment when the words first destined to remain just that, words, begin to convince the very people who keep uttering them by their sheer process of repetition. The result is either action or a feeling of falsehood and deviralization. You either go out and kill, or you begin to feel you're just making soul music. Your incendiary speeches become the equivalent of New Orleans jazz and Negro spirituals. In both cases, you're a loser. That's how the white establishment is turning a few thousand hardcore militants into a new, lost generation, condemned to a few murders and more fantasies. We can raise our voice to a certain pitch, but higher up it becomes the voice of impotence. It becomes empty words, fake thunder. The truth of the matter is that as long as the black minority keeps raising its voice, it's nothing but soul music. The second it resorts to terrorism, it becomes easy to eliminate. But if I say all this openly, I'm washed up in the eyes of our kids in terms of leadership, and I won't be able to accomplish anything for them. We have to choose between heroism and practical accomplishment. But accomplishment is the most unheroic thing in the world, and it's contrary to the nature of youth. It means painstaking conquest of local political power through legal methods, pressures, boycotts, strikes, and clever use of voting power. This isn't the kind of program you can come up with to a 16-year-old kid in the ghetto, and so even the most realistic among us are condemned to romanticism. I remember asking reluctantly, for there was something almost shaming in challenging him. And what about the black guerrilla army back from Vietnam? We have to think, talk, and act that way, mon vieux. If the moderates are going to get anywhere, we have to keep the fire burning. I'm not nutty enough to start raising a black army in this country, but the veterans back from Vietnam are our only chance to organize ourselves and to get out of our present bag of individualism, with every leader jockeying for a kind of political Jackie Robinson, Cassius Clay Superman position. The voice fills with wariness. When, every day, you get your dose of prejudice and injustice, and when you learn more and more about the past, as our kids are, it's easier to give in to heroism and romanticism, with violent speeches becoming either dead bloods on the pavement or soul music, than to organize, maneuver, use tactically and strategically your voting and consumer power, and force America either to use genocide and thus sign the death warrant of Western civilization, or save itself. Only blacks can save America, man, because everything that refuses to give us our American chance refuses to give a new chance to America. And how many times can you put all your stakes on the same old number? Personal heroism in such a situation is almost a form of laziness. But then youth never has time to wait. And they're the ones we get our orders from. He gets up, and so do I. I'll show you to your room. We walk upstairs. What if the police come banging on the door? I don't think they'll show up. They'd rather hold the threat over my head. That's supposed to make me discreet, you see, less conspicuous. What about your 3 guys outside? They're conspicuous as hell. They're there against the competition. I wish you dumb bastards would stop killing each other. He is a few steps ahead of me. What's she really like? That môme, that chick in Paris. I wish you could meet her, Red. She's the best thing that can happen to a guy. The very best. The baby is due any time now, I think. I do wish you knew the môme. Well, Red, I shouldn't have done it, but this was a moment of truth. And after all, he himself was the one who had spoken to me about the end of dreaming, of self-delusion. Red, I'm sure you know, Ballard deserted for that môme's sake, for no other reason. It had nothing to do with Vietnam, with ideology. It was love, the best, the only valid reason in the world. He is standing in front of the door with his back toward me, a light brown checkered suit. I can see it now. Yeah, I know, mon vieux. And Philip? He lowers his head a bit and waits. He waits for it with all the strength of his broad, massive back, with all those centuries of manpower in that back. He waits, but the load of truth is on his shoulders, and I have seen it. He knows. He goes into the room and closes the door behind him. I go downstairs into the living room. Jean's hands are ice. It can be pretty fatal to love animals. If you are capable of seeing a human being in a dog, you can't help seeing a dog in every human being, and then you've had it. It's love again and brotherhood. You are caught. Red was killed on November 27, 1968, in Detroit. a machine gun burst fired from a car. Ballard gave himself up in February 1969, 6 months after his son was born. Chapter 27. I came back to America and that house on Arden 6 weeks later, after a few more zigzags across the world from Paris to Khartoum and from Spain to Somaliland. It is almost impossible for me to stay away from America for long because I am not yet old enough to lose interest in the future and in what it holds in store for us. America is living us intensely, violently, sometimes ignobly, but compared to the great cadaverous rigidities of the East, it is a continent in an acute state of aliveness. Something there, painfully, gropingly, tries to give birth and to be born. It is the only maximum power in history to summon itself to account for its own crimes. This has never been seen before. That is why, even in the depths of its desperation, it is a country that does not give in to despair. I saw White Dog again. I shall have to live to be very old if I am ever to forget our reunion. My son will have to grow and become a man among other men at last worthy of that name. Our civilization will have to emerge from prehistory, and as there is not time enough for a change of such magnitude, if only I could catch a glimpse of a more human world before crossing the shadow line, something of what my life has been about will never vanish entirely. After my homecoming, I kept trying to reach Keys on the phone, but a recorded voice repeated soullessly, "You have reached a disconnected number." Every time I hear that message, I think of this whole alienated, disconnected generation. I called Jack Carruthers at his home, only to learn that Keys wasn't working for him anymore. He's gone into business for himself. I don't have the address here. Call me at my office. No, wait. It's in Corrine Street, behind the football field, a greenhouse in Cranton. Take Florence Avenue. It's the 3rd or 4th street on the right. Lloyd Katzenellenbogen comes to talk business with Jean, but she is out. He offers to drive me a Cranton. He knows the neighborhood. I did some work there after Watts. We go down La Brea, take Crenshaw. I went through here a few weeks ago on my way to see an Italian movie, The Battle of Algiers, Lloyd tells me. And over there, he points to a half-acre of nondescript vacant land waiting there for real estate prices to go up. There were about 20 kids dressed up in camouflage suits and carrying wooden rifles and mock hand grenades. They were training for street fighting, Vietnam type, with grenades thrown into windows and doorways. The black guy in charge of the outfit was obviously a former GI, and he certainly was seeing to it that they learned the job properly. All this with 2 white cops in their car at the intersection, just sitting. Then, while I was watching the movie, it was banned in France, for showing the heroic fight the Arabs put up against the French oppressors. I wince. There is no reason why the words French oppressors should make me wince, but there you are. While I was watching the movie, the same bunch of kids and their instructor come in. It was part of their training, apparently. The picture is in Italian neorealist style, and every time a felon brought down a French soldier in the street, there was applause, laughter, and yells of delight. How about that? I take careful aim right between the skunk's eyes. As you may have guessed, I don't like the guy. Just imagine the applause and delight if the picture showed the heroic struggle of Palestinian Arabs against the Israeli oppressors. He winces. We drive along in a silence heavy with hostility. I think it's here, Lloyd says. It seems to be the only greenhouse around, and there is a football field a bit farther down, just as Jack had told me. But then I notice another green 3-story dilapidated house across the street next to a wired-up oil well. We get out of the car. See if Keys lives here. I'll ask at the other house. I cross the street and take a few steps on the lawn under the plane trees. I reach the green clapboard structure when I hear a scream of terror behind me, then a long animal howl, followed by a burst of short, rapid, furious barks, and another silence while the animal has his mouth full. I spin around and run toward the house. There is no one in the backyard, and the door is wide open, and I can hear children screaming inside and the throaty, murderous growls of a dog at his quarry. Lloyd is on the floor, his face and hands covered with blood, and he is trying to push Batka away. The dog's bared fangs are aimed at Lloyd's throat, and he mercilessly plunges them again and again into Lloyd's outstretched hand. There are several children in the room, and the biggest, who must be 6 or 7 years old, is trying to pull the dog off by his tail. Another kid with a pink doll in her arms is crying in a small, high-pitched wail. Another kid with a pink doll in her arms is crying in a small, high-pitched wail. The other kids, it seems the room is full of them, just stand there, paralyzed, watching. I throw myself on top of Batka and instantly feel his fangs in my hands again and again like deep slashes from a knife. The dog keeps growling, still trying to get at Lloyd's throat. I roar and swear and try to get my fingers into the beast's eyes and feel another deep bite, a burning pain, the fangs tearing at my flesh right in the middle. I let go and roll away as the dog plunges with maniacal persistence at Lloyd's throat again. I manage to kick the animal in the balls with all the might I can master, but as I am lying almost flat on my back, the kick misses, the dog is still at it. And that is when I catch sight of Keys. He is standing on the stairs, almost naked, wearing a narrow pair of black underpants. And he is laughing. How long had he been standing there with that smile on his face, his hands on his hips, victorious, enjoying his equality? Black dog! Even here in Djibouti, by the Red Sea, where I am writing this, alone with the horizon, except for a few Arab dough with their oblique masts and narrow sails, I can still hear my raging, hysterical voice in which I now clearly recognize the echo of some ghastly feeling of relief and liberation, almost of joy, as if I had at last succeeded in getting rid of hope, as if I had at last learned the secret of giving up. I see you succeeded, you dirty bastard. It's Black Dog now. Botka was coming at me. He had bitten me several times, but they were blind bites. In the thick of battle, and with Lloyd finished and immobile, his arms folded limply over his face, the dog had now singled me out for attention. In a second, he was on me. The first two rapid bites were for my wrists, and then, kicking, I rolled away, the back of my neck hitting the wall. I waited with my face hidden in my arms, my eyes closed, my knees up. Nothing happened. I raised my head. What I saw in front of me were my mother's eyes, the eyes of a loving, faithful dog. Botka was looking at me. I have seen friends wounded and dying next to me, but whenever I shall try to recall what an expression of total human despair, incomprehension, and anguish the expression at the end of everything is like, I will be looking for it in memory of that dog's eyes. He raised his head high and gave out a soul-rending howl full of all the sadness and hopelessness of the earth's darkest nights. Then he was gone. Lloyd was unconscious. He had to have 14 stitches, and the deepest cut was only a fraction of an inch from the carotid. Keyes was still there, standing above us on the stairs, and in his nudity he looked like the figurehead of a slave ship. Is that what you wanted from the beginning? That was the goal, the motivation, the only reason for that tireless dedication and pursuit? White Dog was to become Black Dog? You've made it. You win. Hooray and thanks, brother. At least now we aren't the only ones to have discredited and debased ourselves. Yep, we've learned a few things from you, all right, he said. Now we can even do the teaching. My shock and nervous exhaustion took on the form of resentment and rage, childish in their lack of all sense of measure or restraint. I remember that, while looking with hatred at that all-black symmetry, the only coherent thought that found its way to my consciousness was that he was truly one of us, and as such, contemptible. He'd made it. He had joined the club. And yet, that was not how it came out. When I spoke to him at that moment, it somehow came out all by itself, out of my bitterness and racist disillusionment. Yes, racist, for how else should I label my belief that blacks were better and therefore different from us? And Keyes didn't miss the clumsy emphasis and rhetorical snootiness of my words. They were the most sincere I had ever uttered, but they came out overdressed. Listen to me, Keyes. Blacks like you betray their brothers because by joining us in hate, you're losing the only battle worth winning. He shook with silent laughter, his arms crossed over his bare chest. I know you are a noted writer, sir. Drop dead. White dog, black dog, is that all there will ever be? Well, we have to begin somewhere, he said. Equality in beastliness? Self-defense. That's what it is. You bet, but I find it pretty sickening when Jews start dreaming of equality in terms of a Jewish Gestapo and blacks in terms of a black Ku Klux Klan. Suddenly, there was an expression of extraordinary pride on his face. His voice freed itself from baiting mockery, expanded, while at the same time deepening as if coming from under his feet, from the very earth, and I could no longer recognize it. It was the first time in all those 8 months since we had first met that the voice no longer sounded American to me, and it brought to mind instantly all my years in Africa among its painted warriors, tribal chiefs, and hunters. The man's killed 19 of us over the last 2 years. We'll get even in every way we can, and there's no such thing as a small way when it comes to getting even. We're building our own black community with our own black dogs. Not watchdogs, attack dogs. That's my job, and I'm the best at it. The very best, as you've found out. A grin. I hope you'll recommend me. I hear the police and ambulance sirens, though I shall never know who raised the alarm. Key's wife upstairs? Perhaps. I watch Lloyd's bloodied face as they take him away on the stretcher in a state of shock, his eyes wide, glassy, terrified. I look at Keyes for the last time. Pity. You're about to blow the only real chance for black people, that of being different. You're taking a lot of trouble to be exactly like us. Thank you for the compliment, but it's more than we deserve, and it can only help you become the white man's best joke, the best he ever played on others. It seems we've been so successful that even if our lousy breed vanishes, nothing will change. He laughs and nods good-naturedly. Those teeth. That may well be, but don't let that stop you from vanishing, he says. The cops listen, shuffle their feet, can make no sense of it all. They want to know if the dog had his shots against rabies. I tell them the vaccine has yet to be discovered. He ran through the streets, and along his way, police patrol cars were flashing the message, "Watch out for a mad dog." There was in his eyes all the incomprehension and all the despair of a faithful believer whom his God of love had betrayed and forsaken. At the corner of La Cienega and Santa Monica, the patrol car driven by Sergeant John L. Sallin tried to run him over, but missed. By then, he was almost back home at Arden. He had only 200 yards more to go. I found him in Jean's arms 20 minutes later. There was no trace of blows or wounds on his body. The eyes were open and peaceful. He had reached the house, rolled up on the mat in front of our door, and died. They kept me 2 weeks at the clinic. After the first few days and nights of drugged sleep, there were, however, moments of twilight when some almost coherent thoughts would slowly come together in my mind, and with the first light of consciousness would stir in me and raise again the strange, undying, and invincible hope that never fails to get the better of me, and, in a manner closer to some deep survival instinct of our species than to my own will, forever compels me to see in all our lost battles the price of our future victories. I am not discouraged, and those deep, peaceful sands of despair remain as inaccessible to me as ever. I have been defeated once more, but after so many defeats, there comes a moment when you begin to feel invincible. My excessive love of life makes my relations with life very difficult as when you go on loving a woman you can neither change, nor help, nor leave. When I woke up for the first time, she was leaning over me almost eagerly, as if all this time, while I lay unconscious, she had been waiting to give me the good, the wonderful news. You got it all wrong, Romain. A terrible misunderstanding, but of course, it all happened so quickly. I had a long talk with Keyes. He didn't train that poor dog to attack whites. He just trained him to attack any strangers who entered the house. It didn't come easy to me, loaded as I was with narcotics, but I made it all right.
Et avec les oreilles, tu ne fais rien?
And with your ears, Jean, don't you do any tricks? Honestly, Keyes assured me. Honestly. Mercifully, my mind went blank again. Then I woke up once more, and she was still there, but then I often see her even when she isn't there, but this time she didn't have any more wonderful news to share with me, only a smile before I slipped back into oblivion. The next time she was still by my bedside, but also Madeleine with her 3-month-old son, Francois Gaston Claude. I don't know at all how it will come out in America. How's Ballard? You know, he's given himself up. I know. His trial comes up very soon now. He might get 5 years. What about you, Madeleine? They have to give him back to me sooner or later. Her voice was calm, self-assured, the voice of quiet certainties. It made me think of Chartres Cathedral. I don't quite know why. I'm going to look for a job. She smiled. I smiled too. The easy way out. But it is such a relief to be able to respect someone at last. I'm just waiting to know what jail it'll be so that I can be near him. I have the right to 2 visits a week. Nigger lover. Nigger lover. Andratz, September 1969. Djibouti, August 1970.
Context of White Supremacy, Nigger Lover. That's how we wrap up. White Dog, Romain Gary. Once again, next week we will read Isabel Wilkerson, Cased. That'll start us off, brand new book for the autumn. But that's next week. This week we will finish off White Dog. And I said we have talked about canines that have been killed on this broadcast before. So, Nat King Cole. In 1948, Nat King Cole was one of the most popular musicians in America with his I get your kicks on Route 66, but when he bought a house in all-white Hancock Park in California, his neighbors sued to block the purchase. When that failed, they burned nigger on his front lawn and killed his dog with poisoned meat. That King Cole did not move out even after the attacks on the family pet. He stayed there at that residence until the 1970s. Again, we talked about all this in the warmth of Other Sons. Isabel Wilkerson will pick her book back up, or new book up, for next week. But if folks have final thoughts, questions, observations on Romain Gary, White Dog, proceed. If you have a hand up, the line should be open. Don't wait till the last few minutes if you have commentary.
Can I be heard?
Yes, sir. Don Clemson Grad.
Yes, sir. Hey, Gus. Hey to all the listeners as well, too. Unfortunately, I couldn't catch the first half because me and my wife were out teaching. But we were able to catch. We did finish reading the book, of course. Of course, now catching the rest of this final broadcast. So a couple of observations. I'll start in chapter 27, as that's the last chapter that we just finished. And if I had to sum up most of the stuff I was reading in this book, to me, it's like, it seems like, you know, this kind of book is like all those things that white people like to say when they like to, you know, impress black people or trick back black people into thinking that white people actually support black people, you know, and against the system of white supremacy. And then where something actually happens that white people perceive to be against them or anything of the sort, they actually start revealing their true colors, like, oh, you know, I don't agree with this, basically. So, for example, it is the maximum power in the history to submit itself to account for its crimes. That was on page 270. I think that was talking about, you know, America is the only country where, you know, it is actually paid for its crimes as it's developed. Where the heck is he getting that from? As far as I know, at least historically speaking, America is an ongoing crime. Let's see, Romain said by Keyes committing the same acts as White, he is now lowering himself, losing the only battle worth winning. That is just, I have no idea what that sentence even means. What is the battle worth winning in that context, anyways? Let's see, page 276. Whites only find equality in terms of Jewish Gestapo and blacks in terms of the black Ku Klux Klan. You know, anytime it seems that black people start to finally defend themselves, any form of counter-violence is always seen as some kind of act of terrorism, like the counter-violence was the initial act, and that's the wrong thing. Like anything that happened before it was, well, it just never happened. Let's see, Pity, you are about to blow the only real chance for black people. That'll be different. You're taking a lot of trouble to be exactly like us. Again, that was an extension of the previous line. Black people deciding that they want to stand up for themselves, have a little bit of self-respect. If someone, you know, physically assaults a black person, and that black person decides, okay, I'm going to defend myself, and I might have to use violence, so be it. All of a sudden, that black person is seen as a violent oppressor or something like that. And then going back. So like the previous chapter, this is interesting. If black people turn to terrorism, it is easy to eliminate. You know, I guess you say it all the time, you know, white people have more guns, more everything than black people. Black people are easily outnumbered and outgunned. So simply the idea of black people deciding that they want to raise up, you know, obviously black people have a right to defend themselves, but the idea that black people can simply just raise up against white people in the U.S. government, well, that's going to be a very hard thing when you're outgunned and outmanned. Everything that suffers is a human being. To me, more ridiculous language, especially not to play the oppression Olympics, but to simply refer to black people and you know what happens to them as simply suffering. You know, everyone goes through suffering. You know, things happen. You know, maybe you didn't have a good day. Things happen all the time. But suffering is something that's inevitable. But what's happening to black people, that's something that's being done to them. Suffering is not something that happens to people. It's just simply a part of life and a part of living. And I think that's a conflation of the idea that people suffering is the same as the things that are happening to black people. There was a situation where all of a sudden I found it very interesting that Romain's wife, Jean, when the black people started turning against her because she was getting so much attention for fighting against racism, and now all of a sudden she needed the very guard dog that she was worried about killing black people, speaks to the idea that when, but basically white people are the only people who could say that they're against racism and get paid for it. And at least in my experience, I don't know a lot of white people who aren't against a lot of black people who are against racism, but you'd be hard-pressed to find the person who's against racism, the black person who's against racism, and can make a living out of being against racism. Instead, at least in my experience, any black person who's against racism, they're usually ostracized, kept from getting jobs, kept from making a living for themselves, taking care of their families, and eventually maybe even killed at some point. But obviously, we live in a world where white people, if they say they're against racism, they can get book deals, they can do speaking tours, they can become millionaires off of that. And then any white person that speaks like that, well, we know this one white person is proof that, not all white people are bad. There's hope and all the stuff that follows that. And let's see, what else do I got? I think that is it for the most part. Do you want to add anything? My wife does not want to add anything, so I will mute my line.
Much obliged, non-Clemson grad. I think very astute observation about counter-violence, who is authorized to defend themselves, and particularly how that is characterized when it is a black person that implements counter-violence. Any other commentary from folks? Our last session, Romain Gary, White Dog.
Can I be heard?
Mo in Dallas, yes, sir.
To piggyback on what non-Clemson grad said about white people monopolizing the counter-racist market, I forgot the term that the caller coined last week in workplace racism, but that fits his description directly. Do you remember the term, Gus? I didn't get a chance to write it down. The one he put in the email?
Workplace rate from last week?
Yes, sir. He coined a term. I forgot what it was. He coined it and defined it. I forgot what he said.
It was organized cultural flagrancy.
Yes, that term and the definition applies directly to the market on counter-racist violence and how they're allowed to monetize it, and victims of racism aren't. But I would like to open with a quote I already read from chapter 25. The most sacred right of a person is to refuse to be used, cheated, manipulated, or kicked in the ass. When Keyes showed an inkling that he cracked the code, or as he referred into chapter 27, he made it. He has joined the club, racist. That did not please Gary at all. Just to have, a kind of window, he believed that that Keyes had a peek into that, and that totally disgusted him. Cuckold, I didn't get to comment on that in chapter 25, but I think this man is a cuckold. I really do. He refers to it a lot. I think that term suits him well. That's why he put it in the book. I think he was discreetly describing himself. Chapter 26, those black sons of bitches poisoned her. He definitively believed that the cat was poisoned when his wife told him that the cat had a degenerative disease. He didn't want to believe the vet. He wanted to blame black people. That was just, he knew it. He knew it as a matter of fact, and there was nothing that you could tell him different. The only time, like in my days of living, where I've heard of pets, livestock, or crops being poisoned, it was usually a white supremacist suspect that was believed to have committed that crime. I don't really know, or I haven't really heard of too many blacks just poisoning things. It may have happened, but usually in my days of living, when something like that happened, it's usually when it came to my relatives, it was usually like a white person not too far that they didn't agree with. She is a human being. The cat. He described this cat's suffering and death more vividly than he did the assassination of Dr. King or Red Son's death. He was really serious about his cat. Oh my goodness, he even gave a descriptive location for people to pay tribute to the cat. Like he gave coordinates and addresses and trees to look for. It was very. He went into an elegant description about where he put the cat, how the cat died, what the cat went through, how the cat hollered. He did way more for this cat than he described in any victim of racism in his book that received harm or passed or anything. I thought that was very interesting. He told you the cat was human. He told the readers, this cat is a human now. I said he believed that. He was very serious about it. If the black race is continued to raise its voice, it's considered soul music. I thought that was very interesting as well. Because if the black race only raises his voice in suffering, I think white supremacists enjoy that. I don't know, because you're crying about suffering instead of doing something about it. And a reference I have for that in real time is the recent Versus battle. It's the musical battle between Brandy and Monica. They actually sung "A Change Is Gonna Come," and that song has been sung for at least 50 years. I think I'm being modest. I think 60, but I think it's been 50 years. And I think white people enjoy things like that. There's another quote: "Only blacks can save America." I thought that was very interesting. That was a quote from Red, but I don't think Red existed. I think that's something that Gary believes. I really don't believe Red was a real person, but only blacks can save America. I think this is why in the political system, like when it comes to voting, a lot of the American system is contingent on black Americans voting or not. If black Americans don't vote, we will get blamed. If we do vote, we will get blamed. I thought that was very interesting. The 20 kids training in the field with wooden rifles and mock grenades, I believe that was a complete lie. I just don't. I think that was placed in a book to incite fear in the readers who understood what this book was supposed to, represent. I just don't buy that. I don't. I think that was just an image he was placing in people's heads, so that they, in California they got militia they're training kids. Lloyd being attacked by the dog. Gary did not freeze. In other instances in the book, he was too shaken to react to the dog being hostile towards anybody. But when it was a non-black person, he put his hands in the dog's mouth and he was very quick to act, even damaged himself. What else do I have? Pity about Black people have been better. Oh, okay. You're about to blow the only chance black people had to be better than us. I think that is fear there that of what is it, an equal playing field. You know, when he saw that Keys kind of sort of cracked the code on the dog and trained it to attack someone other than blacks, he took that as a direct attack to his well-being, you know. And shortly thereafter, the police made a mad dog announcement. This dog has been hostile towards victims of racism the entire book. Bites one white person, and there's an APB out on the dog. Like, this dog is unacceptable now. We lost it. You know, it's damaged. It's tainted. It's not our dog anymore. It's their dog. Even if it still respects some of us, it's still not our dog. Nigger lover and nigger lover. The first one I think was for the gentleman's wife that was in jail. He was like, even without him, she still loved him. I don't think that pleased him at all. And the second nigger lover, I believe, was for the dog. I believe he considered the dog a lost king. But I could be wrong. In conclusion, this was a very, very, very interesting book. I do think he was a degenerate. I think he's a liar. He is a very powerful white man. There is some truth and understanding in what Romain Gary has about the system about racism. And this book is old. I think a lot of these things, a lot of these beliefs are very common in white supremacy culture. And I don't think, how do I say it? I don't think we're supposed to know a lot of this stuff. I don't think this book was written for black people to read, comprehend, and enjoy. But I did read, comprehend, well, I did hear, comprehend, and enjoy it. That's all I have for now. Mute my line.
Much obliged, Mo in Dallas. Let's see. Any other folks that we missed totally? Make sure we get you in before. I saw there's another person who had a hand up. I was gonna get your hand in before we wrap things up. I reckon if I see. Oh, is that maybe they got? Let's see. Did you have a question to share? I was going to get your hand.
Hello?
Once Mo finished up. Did you have a question, or are you just listening?
Are you talking to me, Gus?
Oh, that was Thomas in New York. Did you have a question, or were you just listening?
No, I had some comments to make. Is that okay?
Yeah, let's hear it. Let's hear it, sir.
Oh, yes. Sorry, my phone calls keep dropping when I'm in certain areas. His description of the word kite, I thought was interesting. That was like gloves off once that was used. Not only do white people love dogs more than black people, it seems like they love their cats too. The Siamese twins. And another book with a dog reference that he did on the book club was Richard Williams. I believe his best friend was hit by the mayor's wife in Shreveport, Louisiana, and the mayor's wife got out. Oh my God, I hit a dog! And what she saw was his friend. It was just the nigga got back in the car. The Keys speech he gave Keys, white people always try to push this black people should be virtuous type of way we should respond to things. You guys are the moral, people here. And without you, with just white people here, we won't have any morality. It's always we have to be that moral, take the moral high ground. And it was overall, I think a book just shows the power white people have. His wife, she could go hang out with the niggas, fundraise, give her salary, wait till doesn't matter. She's still white. Him, you brought it up earlier. White people, what I've noticed when you're around white people and they're joking with each other. I learned this back in high school. All of the jokes go straight to ethnicity and straight to genitalia. Polish people have big balls, so they have a bunch of balls jokes for Polish. They have a different one for each one. And I mute my line. Thank you, guys.
Black and White, the way I see it, Richard Williams. We read that was about 6 years from right now. It's the end of the summer of 2014, unless my memory is bad. That's right after the police, but same things happen right now. Much obliged, Thomas in New York, Mo in Dallas, non-Clemson grad. Hope it was worthy of folks' time and energy. It's been a fascinating read. I will say quickly, with the training outside that was described with the wood and all that, I suspect that's probably true. And the first bit of evidence I would look at is from the book club. The late Sam Greenleaf, who passed away in 2014, his book, The Spook Who Sat by the Door, which I am told, or which is reported the FBI used that book for training. Maybe they still do. But in that book and in the movie, it depicts a scene of that exactly. Black people, black young people, out training, sticks, guns, explosives, all of that. It's described in detail, and there were so many so-called riots and unrest and what have you. I am very inclined to believe that sort of thing is probably happening. Even the movie bit about the battle for Algiers, and they went and cheered when the Algerians, Arabs, were killing the French. So I'm pretty sure that probably happened too. The bit about Red, I'm sorry. Did Red exist? I suspect Red probably existed as well, and I would just lean. He mentioned Alex Rackley in the book. There are a lot. I mean, it's like documentaries, it looks like there's a lot of research that such a person did exist, exactly as described in the book, and they thought he was a traitor and blah, 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 and that was a part of the big, one of the big Panther number trials and all that, so I am very inclined to believe Red probably did exist, and even if he didn't, a lot of the things that he said are very indicative of how certain black people of that time period did think. I was going to point that out, but if I had to wager, I'd be inclined to think, oh yeah, Red probably did exist, and could probably be verified because he put such a specific date on the death. That was the same thing like with Alex Rackley. Could probably be verified. You probably check death records, newspapers, and see. I mean, a machine gun shooting that would stand out. Even I think you said 1969, 1968. Could probably check the news archives once the Rona clears. Just check the news records for shootings in Detroit around that time period with someone who might have a connection to France. That could probably be verified pretty quickly once the libraries are open. But I'd be inclined to wager, yes, Red is an actual person. So Investor wrote in, chapter 26, number 1, this is Gary, a brute is a brute is a brute, whatever the color of his skin. I've had enough of these black skunks being treated like fragile china just because of their color. Gary provides an accurate insight into the feelings of many suspected racists when it comes to the plight of black people. Skunks, not even just skunks, they're black skunks. Number 2, me, the cat. Now, I've been saying me, it's M-A-I, but the way that they have the accent, I think that's just like the village in Vietnam. That's how I know the pronunciation, incident of racism. They went and killed a bunch of non-white people in Vietnam in the city of My Lai, but it is spelled the way it is here, M-A-I. The cat dies on June 7 at 3:30 in the morning, and we bury her in Cherokee Lane under the most beautiful trees in the world. There is at least one person who will understand. Dear Andre Malraux, I was struck by the excessive lamenting by Gary regarding the death of me, the cat. Listeners pointed that out too. To the point of writing a letter, I did not sense any way a similar feeling regarding the death of Philip or Red or Dr. King or any other black people in the book. Chapter 27. Gary talking. Keyes was still there standing above us on the stairs, and in his nudity, he looked like a figurehead of a slave ship. Question, did any slave ships have black males as a figurehead? Nude black males as a like if that was a slave, wow, like Delectable Negro, the man not, like I thought it was the good ship Jesus. Are you telling me they had hurting my head to think about. I have to continue. Number 2, Gary, it somehow came out all by itself out of my bitterness and racist disillusionment. Yes, racist, for how else should I label my belief that blacks were better and therefore different from us? And Keyes didn't miss the clumsy emphasis and rhetorical snootiness of my words. Listen to me, Keyes. Blacks like you betray their brothers because by joining us in hate, you're losing the only battle worth winning. Drop dead. White dog, black dog, is that all there will ever be? Equality in beastliness? Self-defense? That's what it is? Investor writes, Gary in this passage simultaneously tries to affirm his own racism, but does he really? I think instead of confessing to his own racism, he redirects his criticism towards non-white victims, suggesting that they were better than him is a way of dehumanizing them in the end. It is similar to descriptions of Native Americans as the noble savage. He both elevates himself by confessing to his racism and at the same time denigrates non-white victims, which he's done in a variety of ways throughout the book. But that is a good observation. Number 3, Gary, they kept me 2 weeks at the clinic after the first few days and nights of drugged sleep. After the dog attack, I did not get the sense that Gary was seriously injured. However, he was kept in a clinic for 2 weeks. I was puzzled by this passage. They said he got bit in his hands, right? He said he had some deep wounds to the hand and the wrist, and there was question about maybe the dog was rabid, so maybe they wanted to make sure he had all of his booster shots and everything up to date. You don't be too careful, you know. It's white light. They matter. We'll keep him just to make sure. He's a distinguished white man. Number 4, Madeline. I'm just waiting to know what jail it'll be so that I can be near him. I have the right to visit to 2 visits a week. Nigger lover, nigger lover. This is a fitting end to the text. That's what I said. By referring to Madeline as a nigger lover, Gary admits to his own racism, putting an exclamation point on his contempt for black males. I'll pause for 1 second just to see. Is there a different way you can read that he is not being, that he's joking, that he's being sarcastic, that he's not just trying to degrade Madeline? This is the same woman, by the way, that he was just lusting over. I can't even like pause hard enough on it to be like, maybe that's not, because this is the same woman who's probably like 25 years younger than him that he was just salivating and, oh, yes, and she's about to give birth. Never mind. He continues, I think this text would be good to include when studying the 1960s civil rights and black power movements. It provides interesting insight into the thinking of a white liberal intellectual during this era. I suspect many white liberals of this era held similar views, which may explain the popularity of the work at the time. And this book, remember, is like $500. I wonder if the insights Gary provides are one of the reasons that it is so expensive to purchase right now, what I just said. I found the movie version very disturbing, very different. I cannot emphasize enough, anybody, if you listen to all 6 weeks now, you should watch the movie. We did so at the retreat. It is totally different. It's about maybe the first 15 minutes of, oh, dog, he chomps at black people. After that, it's totally different. Totally not super interesting, one of the best movies that I've seen about racism, white supremacy, but it's not this book at all. Great addition to the book club. I agree totally. He asked what type of blender I have. I have what type of Vitamix specifically. I have the Vitamix Pro 750, courtesy of a listener. Spectacular. Had a great smoothie today before we went live. I'll make sure to get my notes in quickly just because we're concluding and, so from chapter 25, now he was talking to Clara way back when, white woman, and she said, hey, nowadays we made so much progress that a black person, he's just a bastard. He's not a black bastard anymore. He's just a bastard. Now look how he starts chapter 26, those black sons of bitches. And it goes on and on and on throughout the chapter. He comes back the next page. Why didn't you tell me they poisoned me? Just who are you protecting exactly, and from what? Are you shielding those black bastards? Or am I saying it just goes on, and then he goes right next paragraph. A brute is a brute is a brute, whatever the color of his skin. I've had enough of these black skunks. I thought you're just a skunk. That's what he wrote in the book. He made a big to-do about that. You know, she said, Clara, you're just a bastard now. You're not a black person anymore. We're beyond now. These niggers, no good nicks. They didn't poison me. We took it to the doctor. No, black bastards and sons of what? This is the so-called white liberal, right? Wow. Let's see. Me, and I said even before we got to this section, I said I used the word human specifically because he talks about everybody with more humanity. What did I just say? Black skunks, black sons of bitches, dog. You're not a human being. You're not a man. You're not a woman. You're not even a person. You're some sort of beast. He's talking about beastliness, niggardliness in the book. He comes back to talking about me is no longer a cat. She is a human being in agony. Every living thing that suffers is a human being, except those black skunk sons of bitches. What? Come on. Oh, and then he comes back, right? He checks us, right? Because he knows some of us will be like, man, he's doing all this for the cat. He didn't even do all that for Dr. King. What's going on about a mere cat, huh? I hate your guts. You anti-sentimental, anti-emotional, hard-headed rationalist. All that is, what? Where's the dog at, man? You didn't even have all that flowery language for Dr. King's death, except to say his wife looked so lovely in her grief. All the pseudo, haven't I heard that before from somebody? Pseudo. All the pseudo people who have about it. All the pseudo people who have the Nazi arrogance to be reading this book make my hands ache for a grenade. I don't think I did enough back there in Paris. I could have poured more oil on the sacred fire. Dear God, I hope you'll give me another chance. Let me say that. Dear God, I do hope you'll give me another chance. I said this is just like Chris Kyle, American Sniper, French version. Oh, I love it. What is Patton? That's one of Mr. Fuller's favorite movies. He said, kill him by the bushel. God, I love it so. What type of thinking is that? I'm excited. He said that. I'm excited. Let's look forward to going to Paris. Oh, I love it with the grenade. Oh, I wish I had a chance. Go out. Let me start up a ruckus, a provocateur. Let me go out and see if I can stir up a ruckus, maybe get somebody killed. Yes, got some folks injured. They have to go to the hospital. Ooh, I wish I'd hurt more of them. Ooh, I wish I'd get another chance. God, give me a... What type of mind is that? And then to come back and disparage all the black people, talk about Ralph Abernathy and Stokely Carmichael the way he did, and this is his thinking? After I've lusted over a pregnant mother, I'm going to come back, oh, I wish I had got a chance to hurt some more people. This is what I mean. What does it mean to be white? This is a bestseller. Continuing, we get a beautiful letter about the cat, where the cat is buried at under eucalyptus trees. We didn't get all of that for Dr. King. It was just maybe niggers killed him. Black skunks. Let's see. It was difficult getting through this without chuckling. I will tell you, I had to pause a bunch of times. The self-defense. That's what I mean. All this about red, what they really want is for me to show resistance, you know, an excuse for shooting me. The old routine cops specialize in legitimate self-defense. It's one, it sounds, what we're talking about right now. But then that he killed a black person, all of that is like, oh, yeah, that's 100% legitimate for that time period. Like, you talk to anybody, like, it was a whole lot of that. Like, that's the Alex Rackley that he mentioned before. That's that case right there. It was a whole lot of that. Black people, this black person is not black enough and blacker than now, and you're an agent provocateur, and that's why I'm not with any of that. Like, this person is an agent and all of that, seen all of that before. All that's going to be is a whole lot of anti-blackness. Even if you do correctly identify a so-called agent, you're not going to identify them all. Let's see. The black provocateur. He says, yeah, I killed a guy. He asked, was it a cop? He says, yes. Well, no, a black provocateur, same thing. That sort of logic right there, it doesn't matter. Not that I'm able to prove this or what have you. We're going off rumor or what I saw. Even if you're right there and you saw the guy kill him, like you going out and killing this black person that you think is an agent is solving what problem exactly? Mr. Fuller has an audio clip talking about that. He lived through all. He would be a great person to talk to about all this because he lived through it. I have talked to him about it. He said exactly what happened. You end up having to go before a white person and apologize for having killed that agent, even if he was one, sometimes wasn't an agent. And you still have to go to a white person and beg forgiveness and hope they don't give you all that time. Seeing that does not solve any problems. He says, all we know is that some niggas showed up at one of the meetings and gunned down 3 of our young brothers, students' brothers. Lots of that. Talked about Bunchy Carter case last week. White people end up provoking all of this, and you just have black people killing other black people. White people provoked it, but they don't take any of the blame. Benefits them, makes their system stronger. That's why that anti-blackness, key component. I'm not going to harm another black person. I'm not going to name call another black person. That was what started a whole lot of that silliness in that time period, name calling other black people. I'm not going to engage in any of that. Branding other black people as agents, I'm not going to engage in any of that. Probably another weakness of the four-wall system Mr. Fuller talks about when you have that four-wallism and why he says you can't organize against white supremacy racism because of things like this. They're going to happen. Continues, when you get this sort of nonsense, not blacks, they weren't killed by, he says, give it to you. Romain Gary says, Red, how many militants have been killed by blacks? Not by blacks, by guys who look black. That sort of nonsense rhetoric and thinking that just justifies, yes, we can be violent because they're not really black. They're white. They're negroes and, they're white people with dark skins and that type of foolishness that just, why don't you go get the real thing? That sort of goofy. He has another goofy bit of logic, and it came after something that actually makes sense. I have to get it in context. He says, because a lot of the things that Red says, you still have a lot of black people who think like this now, VGQ, but for sure you had a whole lot of black people who thought like this during the time that this book was published, like tons of them. That's even if Red is a composite, like it is spot on. Like he nailed this one exactly because there was a lot of folks who think this way. He says, so if they kill me, let them bury me. That'll make one goddamn piece of earth mine for keeps, period. Wrong. We have tons. That's in medical apartheid in my top 10 with this book about how they desecrate burial grounds for black people. No, they will come and dig up your bones and or sometimes they don't even dig up your bones. Sometimes they'll come and make it a dog park and have them urinate where your remains are, make it a parking lot or Trader Joe's or whatever. There's tons of cases where they made it a park or anything. So, no, you will not even have one spot. They will do whatever they want. Too many examples to list. I think some of that's in One of Other Sons, too. Let's see. Nowhere to Run. He talks about that. This description I thought was another homoerotic portion. Romain says, I know so well. And if he's talking about Red, he says, the voice rises again out of its subterranean ashes. It is once more the strong, deep voice I know so well, and his earthy manpower hands lock. Wow. And he has so many descriptions like that of Red, just of his physical prowess and physique and everything. Continuing. Okay, so this is what I was talking about. So Red gives this big speech about you can't just keep with all this rhetoric about kill whitey and blah, blah, blah. He says you end up with this falsehood and deviralization. You either go out and kill or you begin to feel you're just making soul music. Your incendiary speeches become the equivalent of New Orleans jazz and Negro spirituals. Wow. I agree 1,000%. Absolutely. I mean, you don't even do all that talking. Mr. Fuller says that from The Godfather. I mean, Marlon Brando, who was mentioned in the book, you don't do all that, running off at the mouth. If it's time to go, oh, okay. It's no more talking. We just go about, you just wake up and the horse head is in bed. That's nothing to talk about. Same thing. So I agree with Red. That is spectacular analysis. You're a loser just doing all that talk. I totally agree. Really, you're a loser as long as you're subject to the system of white supremacy. Now, and he even goes right to Mr. Fuller. He says what the whole goal is. He asks him about the army. He says when every day you get your dose of prejudice, and injustice. And when you learn more and more about the past, as our kids are, it's easier to get into heroism and romanticism, with violent speeches becoming either dead bloods on the pavement or soul music, than to organize, maneuver, use tactically and strategically your voting and consumer power for more years, and force America to either use genocide. That's pretty close to Mr. Fuller forced them to kill us all, right? Let's see. And he shot down. Yeah, that seems appropriate to the time. Him being shot down, no problem there. Chapter 27. The scene about them talking, the battle for Algiers. Folks should check that film out if you haven't seen it. Classic. It's about 55 years old at this point. Dr. Kanban recommends it. It's subtitled. Probably did happen. You had black people rooting for the Arabs in the film, the Algerians. And he calls him a skunk. I would even call him a white skunk. Just a skunk. But even him being hurt by that, like, I don't understand. Is it accurate? Same thing, he could have been applied to Vietnam as well. The French oppressors in Vietnam, that would have been accurate, right? Continuing. Oh, my gosh. So then, yes, we get to the scene with the dog. Baca attacks Lloyd Katzen. Like, I don't have the name. The long name. He attacks Lloyd. So when he sees all this, he says, I managed to kick the animal in the balls with all the might I can muster, but as I'm lying almost flat on my back, the kick misses. Even there, in the midst of all the growing references in the book, I'm a little suspicious. Like, you would have the coordination to aim specifically to kick in this moment. My goal is still, I'm targeting the genitals. He even had that moment where they were talking about the battle for Algiers. That was in the first audio segment. He said, man, they were in his apartment in France. Why do the Algerian troops, why do they castrate the French soldiers and stuff their balls in their mouth? All this genital focus. Dr. Weldon talked about that all the time when she talked about white genetic annihilation. Who does this in the world, in history? All this genital focus? Who does this? Capture someone and chop off his penis and then do this by the bushel. Don't just do this one time or 50 times. Do this for years and brag about who does this. Why would you do this? Let's see. And even if he misses kicking the dog in the balls, and then Keys, he is standing on the stairs almost naked, wearing a pair of black underpants. At this moment, his blackness in full view. So the dog bites them both, yum, 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 chews them up. What I saw in front of me were my mother's. Again, the dog is more human than the black person. In this moment, he's still talking about Keys. He's got all those teeth. Keys is described more like a dog than the dog is. The dog's name is either the loving father is what vodka means in Russian. And then he's got all these passages in here, the dog's mother eyes and all the rest of it. The dog has more humanity than any black person in the book, even Dr. King. Let's see, and then he described, what did he say about this one? After the dog, so the dog has chomped on Romain a few times, and then, oh, this is my friend. I shouldn't have been here maybe. Oh, and apparently the dog feels so bad about this. He says he raised his head high and gave out a soul-rending howl full of all the sadness and hopelessness of the earth's darkest night. That's when I said I think he's lying. And because, unless I'm misinformed, there are multiple endings to this book. How can that be? It would just have to be translated, a few different ways, that this is what happened. The dog went wild, he chomped on us, and then died. How can it be that there are multiple endings to the book? Unless I misread, and I think there are at least 3 different endings to the book. That I am calling shenanigans on, that the dog apparently felt so bad about chomping on his white friend that he howled and went crazy and died. He didn't get shot. He didn't get ran over by a car. He just laid down and died out of sorrow because he chomped on a white man. Come on. Let's see. Figurehead of a slave. Let's see. He has a really suspicious use of the term brother in this text as well. Anything else? I thought, too, I think Mo in Dallas mentioned that as soon as the dog chomps on a white person, oh, it's time for him to die. In the film, you see this as well. In the film, this dog attacks a black female. She lives and kills 2 black males. They're still trying to rehabilitate. Even the black people are still trying to rehabilitate him. He attacks one white person. They put him down immediately. White lives matter. Be truthful. White lives matter. Black people, it's not even accurate. Black beasts, black bastards, black skunks. That's what he said in the book. I could probably talk for a longer period of time. It is a remarkable read for top 10. And regrettably, I don't even think it's well written. Many of the reasons that I do not like the writing, it reveals what it means to be white. Him taking all this time and flowery language about this cat and making himself out to be a victim. Wow. Spectacular read. Huge thanks to the listener who was able to get us a copy of this book because it was so hard. It's so expensive, and the libraries are shut down and everything. But, wow, I'm so glad that we got it in the archives. We're able to read it in its totality, and hopefully it has been constructive for folks to hear about the text. Let's see. I guess unless it's like a 30-second thing. Let's see. I'll double-check really quick. Yeah, I didn't see any phantom hands, so I'll assume folks are satisfied with what we have shared about the text thus far. Everyone is satisfied. Grand. Delectable Negro, I would encourage folks to check out. There's so many references there. And yeah, Delectable Negro, The Man Not, the ISIS Papers would probably be good books if you've not read them. They would probably be excellent books to read to help you get a better understanding of some of the things that are being discussed in this book. Maybe even The Spook Who Sat by the Door, because, yeah, some of this will sound very, strikingly. But that's the very premise of The Spook Who Sat by the Door. That's what Red is talking about, that we'll get black people to join the CIA and all this and then come back. And yeah, maybe add that one too. Some of that stuff is in the book club, or actually much of that, The Man Not, Delectable Negro, Spook Who Sat by the Door, all in the book club. So you can just go on the Cow's archives or go to your library if it's open and do some more reading. Romain Gary, White Dog. Whew. Anyway, we'll be here tomorrow for Neutralizing Workplace Racism. Normal time, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. And on Saturday, normal time, compensatory call-in, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. Monday, irregular time, will be here at 12 Pacific, 12 noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. Valerie Jackson, she wrote the book Racism and Child Protection. She is a white woman suspected racist in the United Kingdom. She's been a guest on the program many times. Man, we got to talk about this book. Talk about this book. But that's her book, Racism and Child Protection, about sexual abuse of children. Jeffrey Epstein, Kevin Spacey. That's what her book is all about. She's been on the program twice before. We discussed Jimmy Savile and Jerry Sandusky and blah, 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 racism, white supremacy. So we'll talk about the protests. Jeffrey Epstein, because it's got the UK angle with Prince Andrew and all the rest they've been covering, paying attention to that, paying a lot of attention to that case over there. So we'll discuss all that again with the protests that are global. Lots to chat with Valerie Jackson. You can listen to some of her previous visits in the archives, but that'll be irregular time, Monday afternoon. Well, yeah, afternoon, 3 p.m. Eastern time, 12 noon Pacific. If you are working from home or whatever it is, tune in. Always great to chat it up with a white person and a white person in a different part of the known universe. Much obliged for folks tuning in. Hope it was worthy of your Thursday evening. Reading more important than watching television. I have enjoyed this text immensely and am super excited to pick up, or not excited, I'm excited to no longer have to narrate. That I do not enjoy, so I'm elated to give that up. But not excited, but intrigued, I'll say. Next week we'll start Isabel Wilkerson, Taste Same time. We read Warmth of Other Suns in the archives. Check it out. But Cased, her brand new book, just published a few days ago. That is our next text if you want to get a hard copy or what have you to be prepared. With that, sobriety would be best under conditions of white supremacy. You never know. Might be a white dog in your area and you need to be alert. Don't want to be not thinking correctly or not paying attention to things that are happening around you. Make sure that you have your faculties functioning high level. In addition to being sober, let's be buckled up every time we are in a vehicle. I will still submit we should be hunkered down. It is not a time to be out and about gallivanting. There are lots and lots of hazards in addition to the Rona and white dogs and everything else. You got a lot of armed white people, Kyle Rittenhouse and all the rest. Take all that seriously. If you see any white people that are being hostile, loud, aggressive, looking like they want some conflict, time to get out of there. Be very much about self-defense at some points is exiting an area. There's no saving face. There's nothing to prove. Sometimes what you want to do is exit. Make sure that you are here for the next day, particularly when you don't know all the variables in a situation, and that's a lot of what's happening right now. Armed white people out and about, mad, aggressive about whatever. This is not something that you planned. Nah. I'm going to make sure that I am safe, me and anybody else I'm responsible for. Make sure we're safe. We'll get out of this area and deal with whatever we came out to accomplish at a safer date and time. With that, again, so it's sober. If we're going out, we're going to be buckled. If you are driving, you are not on the cell phone. For one, we need to be hyper vigilant, so we need all of our attention focused on, what's happening around us. Two, we're trying to do everything we can to minimize contact with race soldiers. So anything, making sure we're buckled up, making sure you're not on the phone, minimize contact. They got white dog. It's a police dog. Remember, that's what they took out of the film. This is a police dog, like 5-generation police dog in the movie, or excuse me, in the book. They took that out of the movie. Anywho, Creator, we ask that you help us remain patient with other black people, victims of white supremacy, no name calling. We ask that you help us remain patient with ourselves. Remind us to demonstrate the highest levels of black self-respect at all times, in all places, each and every time we are in contact with another black person. It has been time. Replace white supremacy with justice immediately. Cal signing out. Thanks all for tuning in.